international waters transporting illegal narcotics into the U.S. A federal judge in California has ruled the Trump administration unlawfully used Marines and National Guard troops in L.A. In a September 2nd order, U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer said the federal government couldn't use the California National Guard or any military troops deployed in the state to engage in arrests, apprehensions, crowd control, and other activities. The DOJ had argued the trial should be canceled, and among other things, it argued the federalized National Guard troops were focused on the protection of federal property and personal performing federal functions. Besides, it said another section of federal law allows the National Guard to execute the law. President Trump waved off bizarre social media rumors about his demise yesterday, telling reporters at the Oval Office he was very active over Labor Day weekend in dismissing the morbid speculation as fake news. And while he was at it, he dismissed a bizarre viral video showing mystery objects being hurled from a White House window as fake. At a packed press conference, he said the mansion's windows were sealed and bulletproof and suggested the clip was made by AI. And he went on to say his wife was complaining about it the other day. She said she'd love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof, Trump repeated. Our quote of the day, actions speak louder than words. Let your words teach and your actions speak. St. Anthony of Padua. And coming up, our saint of the day. You're listening to Crusade Channel News.
When most people hear the word coffee, they conjure up visions of a ceramic mug in the palm of both hands and a woman slowly sipping. This isn't a Folgers commercial. It's for Capuchin Holy Roast, and here's how I take mine. With a dash of vanilla, a pinch of cinnamon, a spoonful of honey, and lots of heavy cream. Add some ice, shake, and then enjoy, while knowing that's $6 the libs at Starbucks can't spend to ruin my life and yours.
Cappuccino Holy Roast in whole bean or grind is available at shop.mychurch.com. While Trump continues to try and make America great again
by doing Mortal Kombat with the Clinton, Comey, and Clapper crime families.
Today is St. Pius X, perhaps best remembered for his encouragement of the frequent reception of Holy Communion, especially by children. Joseph Sarto became Pius X at the age of 68. Ever mindful of his humble origin, he stated, "I was born poor, I lived poor, and I will die poor." He was embarrassed by some of the pomp of the papal court. "Look how they have dressed me up," he said in tears to an old friend. To another, "It is a penance to be forced to accept all these practices. They lead me around surrounded by soldiers like Jesus when he was seized in Gethsemane." He was interested in politics and encouraged Italian Catholics to become more politically involved. One of his first papal acts was to end the supposed right of governments to interfere by veto in papal elections, a practice that reduced the freedom of the 1903 conclave which had elected him. In 1905, when France renounced its agreement with the Holy See and threatened confiscation of church property if governmental control of church affairs were not granted, Pius X courageously rejected the demand. He denounced the ill treatment of indigenous peoples on the plantations of Peru, sent a relief commission to Messina after an earthquake, and sheltered refugees at his own expense. On the 11th anniversary of his election as Pope, Europe was plunged into World War I. St. Pius had foreseen it, but it killed him. "This is the last affliction the Lord will visit on me. I would gladly give my life to save my poor children from this ghastly scourge." He died a few weeks after the war began and was canonized in 1954. Gold prices hit an all-time high on September 2nd amid expectations of an interest rate cut and growing uncertainty related to tariffs. Spot gold hit a new high of around $3,508 per ounce in early trading, breaking the previous high of roughly $3,500 set on April 22nd. As for silver, spot prices broke through the $40 per ounce level on September the 1st. I'm Janet Huxley for the Crusade Channel, seeking news and finding truth.
You may not believe it, but Bram Stoker's Dracula may be a work of non-fiction.
What? That's scarier than getting stuck in an elevator with Jasmine Crockett.
Oh, good grief. Really? Come on, I'm trying to be serious here. Okay.
Hear it and other amazing tales on Turley's Believe It or Else, 10 to 11 a.m. Central, every Tuesday on the Crusade Channel. Our app and always on crusadechannel.com. Live talk and podcast radio.
The way it should be.
So Starfleet gets started in Alabama. Mike, it's not Starfleet, it's Space Force. Look at the flag. They have the giant A from Starfleet on the flag. Miniature plane, I did the go in. Meanwhile, we are blowing to Kingdom Come privateer vessels in the South Caribbean Sea. I love it. Greetings to you. It is the Mike Church Show live on the Crusade Channel on a Wednesday. Asking the question of the day.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Well, we'll inform you.
To ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Secure society.
So I'm calling on Congress to pass these reforms, and I'm going to sign them into law. You called down the thunder, well, now you got it. You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
All righty, Oakley Dokley, and all that sort of jazz. Call in line telephone number. If you'd like to be on the program, 844-527-8723. 844-5-Crusade. Email address same as it ever hath been. I am KingDude at protonmail.com. I am KingDude at protonmail.com. Crusader Stadium chat room is open for your commentary at crusadechannel.com/chat. You know, when you took over the chat room this morning, I think you nuked my little crawl space at the top of the page. Well, it's not there. It was quietly and sweetly scrolling the latest podcast, and now it's gone. So chalk one up to Maggie O'Connor. I'm kidding. You can make a donation, though, in the Crusader Stadium chat room. The form is now at the bottom of the chat page, as is the progress bar, which you can see 80 at $12,200. We're going to get there, folks. Big news day yesterday. I want to start off by talking about something that's not really big, a huge news event. Maybe it should be. And that is the mental capacity and mental health of the Democrat Party and its leaders, who continue, if you look at this objectively, who continue to say and to do things that would lead one to believe that quite frankly, they are literally Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Some of you may die, but that's a risk we're willing to take. You now have the governor of the state of Illinois and the mayor of the city of Chicago, who are now basically, and I said this yesterday, and I wasn't kidding about it yesterday, and their actions yesterday just make what I said that much more salient. They're basically now saying that the people that live in or near the main streets of Chicago, sucks to be you, but suck it up, Buttercup. You're going to have to, some of you may die, but that's okay. People die in violent crimes every day in big cities. That's just the cost of doing business. So murder and mayhem is the cost of doing business now in big cities in the United States if the city is run by a Democrat? This is simply, who are these people? There's Pritzker walking along the beach with some reporter babe, and he's telling her, well, you know, people die in big cities every day. It's just the way it is. We should get used to it. The governor of a state, you're supposed to govern, shepherd. You know, if you're a governor during the ages of Christendom or during the ages of the faith, depending on whose side you're on, one of the things, it's a really good read. Read Charles Coulombe's book, The Search for the Catholic Holy Grail. No, I'm sorry. Read Charles Coulombe's book, Blessed Carl. In one of the early chapters, chapter 4, chapter 5, somewhere up in there, Coulombe republishes the swearing in oath that a Habsburg, for example, would have to take before becoming the Holy Roman Emperor. Which means he was the emperor basically over most of the papal states, specifically what we call Hungary today, Austria. I forget what the whole thing entails. But if you read the oath that he takes, not only does it pledge him, and does he pledge to defend his, to protect and defend the souls that are placed under his care and under his dominion or his rule, but he also pledges and swears an oath under God to seek and to do all that he can do to make it so that those souls have a blessed eternity, so they get to heaven. So he's kind of like, he literally is the godfather, if you will, of all the kingdoms that are under the Holy Roman Emperor. Well, what we have today is the exact opposite. We have governors that are saying, no, I won't take the oath. Too bad. You live in my state, there's a good chance you go into one of our major cities, you're going to die. Deal with it. This is the opposite of leadership. I mean, this is an episode of Seinfeld. This is Bizarro World. While this is going on, you have, so President Trump has asked, and the White House, a big, long press conference. We didn't cover it. We were really busy catching up from Monday's holiday. So, and I saw that it was on, and they stayed on it for like an hour and a half, and I was surprised because they usually, if it's on Fox News, they cut away for some stupid commercial break or whatever. I saw that it was on, and one of the first things he did was made the announcement about Space Force, and that basically Space Force HQ is going to be moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and the Redstone Arsenal. Now, this is an interesting phenomenon to me. I lived and worked in Huntsville in 1999 at 770 WVNN in Huntsville, which at the time was owned by a man named Bill Donovan, Athens Broadcasting Corporation. And Bill D, as we all called him, that was the Rush Limbaugh. Dr. Laura, who else was on that station? Dr. Dean Adele, and of course the Mike Church station. And it literally was. So I lived in a little town, little hamlet of Madison, Alabama, which is adjacent to Huntsville. You go to downtown or near downtown Huntsville, and you could see this from the interstate. You will pass, they were building this now. It wasn't there then, but it's there now. A full-size replica of a Saturn V rocket. And it's incredible to see that thing from a distance because you go like, that thing flew. They flew that thing. That bang flew. But here's the point that I wanted to make. Because certain people predisposed to conspiracy theories, which is most of you, immediately, what is this Redstone Arsenal? Oh, I've never heard of this, a top secret. One woman looked to me like she had just smoked about 15 bongs. Went on some Alex Jonesian rant.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking...
Like, man, what do you see, man? The things you're gonna like discover, or this Redstone Arsenal thing. Nobody even knew it existed before today, man. It's like, I knew it existed. I knew it existed, and I don't even work in aerospace. Hell, I knew the Redstone Arsenal existed back in the 80s. If you don't know what the Redstone Arsenal is, it is a ginormous. You're not allowed to fly over it, by the way. I learned this from a friend that worked for the Army, who was a listener who worked at the Redstone Arsenal. It's a no-fly zone. You can't fly over it. And there's a good reason for that, because they test mortar shells and stuff. Sometimes you'll be hanging out in your home in the Huntsville area or in Madison, and you'll hear a bomb go off in the distance. You'll go like, what the hell? Are we being invaded? No, they're testing some weapon at the Redstone Arsenal. But the Redstone Arsenal has been there. I don't know how long. I'm sure Maggie can Wikipedia and give you a date. There's nothing new about this. It is a massive expanse of land that is large enough to test all manner of weapons, because if you're really going to test a weapon, sometimes, they got to fly a manner of miles to hit their target. Well, how are you going to find out whether or not it works? Well, the Redstone Arsenal is actually one of those places that's big enough to test those weapons. So, in any event, the fact that he's moved Space Force to the Redstone Arsenal actually is probably more accurate to say, because what else is there is the Marshall Space Flight Center. And I'm not breaking any news to people that know the history or live in or near or around Huntsville, Alabama. The Marshall Space Flight Center is it's where they tested basically the Saturn V rockets. In any event, it was a piece of shocking news to some, because apparently, I guess, Space Force was headquartered where the Air Force Academy is in Colorado. And so Trump's move, or his executive order, basically is going to move whatever parts of it were in Colorado to Alabama. Now, this is driving blue state leftards bananas. They're demanding to know why should they have to live, or should they have to leave their leftist paradise or hell that they've created in Colorado to move to Dixie in Alabama. Well, if there's any of or if you know one of them, or if there's any of the possibility that one of them could be listening to this show, and it's almost, the chance of that is none.
0.0.
I would say this to you. The Huntsville, Alabama area comes in the top 5 every time they do a survey on quality of life. Expenses, topography. It's a wonderful place. It really is. It's a beautiful area. It has it's at the base of the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, or Appalachians, whatever you want to call them. It's not flat, so it's not boring. Climate's really nice. It's in Alabama. There's plenty to do around there. It's spread out. So, there's a lot of green space and stuff. It's just it's a really nice place. You could do far worse than having to move to Huntsville. But as usual, in everything in bizarro world, you got to take something that should be an opportunity and you got to turn it into a pile of poop, which is what they are attempting to do with the naming the Redstone Arsenal as the new home for Space Force, or whatever it is that they're going to move there. So what's the first reaction from the political class? Now, I'm wondering, is the governor of Colorado now going to run like a little scared, wounded child off to a federal judge and try and get an injunction against the president of the United States moving a center of operations for something that is well documented and well under his executive authority to control? I wouldn't put it past him. They sued him on tariffs. Why not? But this is just part of this pattern here, where the enemies of the United States, it seems to me, are in the United States. So in any event, we'll talk more about that. There was I'm surprised. I would call you people out by name, but I don't want to embarrass you. But I am surprised. I did not hear, and the rest of us did not hear, from many usual suspects when the United States Armed Forces yesterday successfully took out a transport vessel of some sort that was traveling through the South Caribbean Sea or at a high rate of speed that had left Venezuela and was headed towards the United States. You know what it was loaded down with? Now, of course, somebody goes, you don't know what they really had on. Oh, I'm sure, it's fall. I'm sure they were delivering pumpkins for you usual suspects. You don't know what was on that boat. It could have been medical supplies from Venezuela to the United States. Sure it was. Right, yeah. No, I know. No, they had a delivery. Hey, man, we got a delivery, man, for the great pumpkin from President Maduro. Do you want your Venezuelan going pumpkins or not? Yeah, it was filled with Halloween treats. So I don't know if they used a drone or what they used, but they blew that boat to kingdom come. And the White House released video of it saying that this was a sailing vessel that had left Venezuela and was headed toward the U.S., I assume Florida, or somewhere on that coast, and was loaded down with what they believed was a massive amount of hardcore drugs, probably fentanyl, cocaine, whatever the payload was. I believe they said there were 11 Trinidad gang members on it, and they had the intel on this. Maduro was warned: stop trafficking. You think you can go around the land bridge? Fine. You think that you're going to go around the U.S. Coast Guard with your killing drugs? You're wrong. They blow it to kingdom come. Now, here's what I'm surprised by. The usual suspect, see, posse comitatus. I'm surprised one of you in the chat room hasn't already gone posse comitatus. This is like illegal. This is unconstitutional. This is a terrible precedent to set. No, it's not. And by the way, Trump's not setting this precedent. This is what I have to say about this. And I was waiting for one of them to pounce, but I guess for once, they had to admit, okay, all right, he can't defend the homeland. Okay, now shut up. He still sucks. This is no different than President Jefferson sending United States sailing vessels filled with U.S. Marines to Tripoli. Yeah, that was a rescue mission. Not all of it. Not all of it was a rescue mission. You better look that history up again, boy. It's no different than President Washington dispatching what small remnants or what amounted to a small coterie of sailing vessels that made up the U.S. Navy to go and sail alongside U.S. sailing vessels that were delivering American goods to Portugal and to Spain and parts of the Mediterranean, maybe even parts of England. As a matter of fact, there's a story in David McCullough's book, John Adams, where before the Constitution was ratified in the 1880s, Adams was basically what you would call the Secretary of State. There was no Secretary of State, but that's kind of the role that he was playing, and they sent him to France. Jefferson was already there. Franklin was already there. They sent Adams to France, and they sent Adams to France to go meet with the Sultan of what we call Libya today, which I think he also ruled Morocco. And that Sultan or Emir or whatever the hell he was would have been the political figure or governmental figure that would have been over what today we call the Barbary Coast Pirates. And so Adams gets a meeting with the guy, and he goes, look, we don't have a navy. or as big of a navy. We have a bunch of, I'm trying to remember how he put it, a bunch of kind of vigilantes, if you will. Not vigilantes, mercenaries. We do have some boats, but not the kind of big boats. And we're going to build a bigger navy. So we want to know, we don't want trouble with the Barbary pirates. So how much is it going to cost? We'll just pay you to not raid ships under American flag. So how much do you guys want? And Adams is going like, you want 30, you want 40,000? And the emir said, no, 40,000? Surely you are a joker. You are just a little fat man from America. No, price starts at 750,000 British pounds sterling. I'm not making this up. He told him he wanted 750,000 pounds. Well, Adams thought that was unreasonable and did what John Adams did, threw a hissy fit, stormed out of the meeting, went back to wherever he was staying in France and fired a letter off to Hancock or whoever was the president of the Confederation and said, these people are unreasonable. We're going to have to build we're going to have to build ships. They want too much money. And then the news came back, dude, you're just going to have to pay them. Whatever it is that they want, you're just going to have to give it to them for the time being. So by the time you get to the Washington administration, the U.S. does have some sailing vessels, and it was one of Washington's executive orders that you are to sail alongside or within safe distance of American trade vessels. And if they come across Barbary pirates, you have the permission, or if you see the pirates, you have the permission of the United States to blow them to kingdom come. Basically go to war with them. So that action yesterday was perfectly in keeping in line with that.
For 9 years now, Brother Andre Marie's Reconquest has been your source for best in Catholic philosophy, history, and saints.
Well, I'm the new gal at this monastery, and Jiminy Christmas, after 4 years of auto pens, social media heresy, I could use some Catholic philosophy.
Well, call yourself a blessed girl, because new episodes debut Wednesdays at 8 Central, and there's over 475 podcasts available on the Crusade Channel, our app, and always on CrusadeChannel.com. Live talk and educational radio.
The way it should be.
Hello, Crusaders. I'm Janet Huxley at the Crusade Channel News Desk with your Crusade Crucials for Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2025. This report is brought to you by the 2ALibertyWatchCompany.com. Watches that express your love of the Second Amendment, American liberty, and President Trump, all beautifully crafted and endorsed by Mike Church. Shop their stylish line of watches today at 2AWatchCompany.com. The market report, all three major indexes slipped again. The Dow was down 0.55%. The S&P was down 0.69%. NASDAQ had fallen 1.15% at last close. Today in National Day calendar news is U.S. Bowling League Day. Primarily an outdoor sport until around 1840, the game was called nine pins, was popular with gamblers. Well, to snuff out all the gambling, the state of Connecticut banned the game in 1841. As a result, indoor lane owners added one pin to their alleys to circumvent the law. Clubs tried organizing and creating set rules, but it wasn't until 1895 when the American Bowling Congress came together at Beethoven Hall in New York City. It's also National Welsh Rarebit Day. Our quote of the day, actions speak louder than words. Let your words teach and your actions speak. Saint Anthony of Padua. And our saint of the day is Saint Pius X. You're listening to Crusade Channel News.
While Trump continues to try and make America great again
by doing Mortal Kombat with the Clinton, Comey, and Clapper crime families.
You forgot the...
Nope, did not. And the King of Russia treason, the Obama father.
Well, we'll always be there for you with the best live coverage and commentary in media on the Crusade Channel, our app, and always on CrusadeChannel.com. Live talk and podcast radio.
The way it should be.
Spinning the greatest hits from the 80s, the greatest comeback decade for the second greatest comeback decade. The aughts, the 25s. The Mike Church Show is on, the longest running continual radio program on air anywhere in the world at 34 years young. This portion of the program brought to you by, all right, let's talk coffee, you people. Capuchin Holy Roast Coffee, obviously our blend, and it is a blend. 2 continents worth of fair trade acquired and roast and shipped coffee beans. Some of them from Ethiopia, the Yergachefa, and the other the Arabica from South America. That's a great coffee. We love it. Get you a bag or 16 today and grind or whole bean. But today we are drinking espresso roast from the Abbey Roast Brothers at Silver City, New Mexico. Also available in our store at shop.mikechurch.com. We are the largest retailer of Abbey Roast coffees in the world. The brothers send us lots of coffees for us to sample and to try. And there's something unique, and to ship to you, there's something unique about this particular espresso roast. It's 5 different kinds of beans. I read it on the back of the label today, that it is a top secret recipe that was handed down to the brothers, roasted at 7,000 feet elevation, and 5 different kinds of beans for a perfect espresso blended coffee without the espresso machine and all the fuss and the fuss. You just need a brewer. You just need a percolator, as my dad used to say. Get you a bag of espresso roast next to the other 5 varieties of Abbey Roast coffees today in whole bean or grind at shop.mikechurch.com. Your purchases support the Mike Church Show and the Crusade Channel. Plus, you get a great deal on coffee. And look, where else can you shop for coffee that is made by Catholic brothers in real Benedictine habits, doing real Benedictine kind of stuff, and get a Holy Rosary from Maggie O'Connell's Little Bayou Rosary, and get a trio, see them right there, beast and butt rub, Acadiana steak seasoning, and chicken mamu. My blends, my 3 blends of rubs right there, all at the same place, one shipping price. If you spend $50, there is no shipping. By the way, we are keeping snail mail in business. At the Founders Trading Post, we ship exclusively through the United States Postal Service. So shop with us today. Don't forget the books, the cigars, and all the other great stuff. Shop.mikechurch.com. Get you a bag of Abbey Roast Espresso Blend. Try it today. Shop.mikechurch.com. I like that picture because people like them pictures. You put into the chat room at what downtown Huntsville, Alabama looks like. Trump said in his announcement yesterday that it's going to forever be known as Rocket City. I'm thrilled to report that I'm moving the U.S. Space Command headquarters and will move to the beautiful locale, a place called Huntsville, Alabama, will forever be known as, at this point forward, as Rocket City. You know, it was kind of, what was the temperature this morning? I'm seeing the temperature readouts in the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. By the by, you can now see that you can get the total for this week's crowdfunding in the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat right beneath the text entry bar. And you can also, you don't have to leave the chat room anymore. The donation form is embedded into the chat room to make it easier than ever before to make a donation. Thanks to Jacqueline and Defender for getting us off to a great start today, and Defender. Thank you. So now you can see the total. Well, you know, I need to refresh. Well, hold on. It was stuck at 80 this morning.
No, it was on 60 this morning.
It was on 60. Now it's on 80. Okay, now it's on 80. It's 68. It's usually, we usually have Satan's you-know-what crack until October around this joint. It's, you know, I thought it was kind of cool. I still managed to make to break a sweat in my mile and a half walk around the neighborhood here. Lots of other stuff going on. Here's some other headlines. What is this? Father Ted creator Graham Lenham. Oh, okay. All right. This is the guy who was arrested for mean tweets in the UK. The Princess Bride, Robin Wright Penn, or whatever her name is these days. What? Leftard. Robin Leftard announced that she was leaving the grim, blood-soaked and stained, mean streets of Trump's United States, where there is no freedom, only hell and slavery. These people are really sick. Where she could move to where the free people are in the UK. This while UK BBC hosts are on air with a Jewish member of the English Parliament. You know, he said that, and I went, that just doesn't calculate, bro. Actually, I'm the only member of the English Parliament that's a Jew, that is Jewish. And I went, aren't you British? If I went to the American Congress, I wouldn't describe myself as a white guy. I just describe myself as a Louisianan or American. Why you gotta tell me where your country of preference and origin is? You see how they're doing this? They're doing it all over the world now. Like that clip we played from that lunatic imam yesterday. It was like, all of you Europeans need to leave here. You screwed this country up. You're not from this country either. Graham Linehan was arrested over transgender angry mean tweets. They actually were waiting for him when he landed at Heathrow Airport and arrested him for inciting violence in tweets. These people have lost it. Not that they ever had it. You know, it's so bad now in the UK, and we do have some listeners and some friends, Fiorella and KV and Joe Clovis, and well, you know, there's a couple of dozen of them because I see the stats there listening from the UK. I don't know what to say to you guys. Either you're going to have your second glorious revolution of 1688, and I'm not sure how glorious that one was. Oh, here, let's go back. What you need is your first glorious revolution of 1312 at Runnymede, where you get Magna Carta. If you don't get that, then I'm afraid you're going to have to leave your cities, and you're going to have to find out where Jeremy Clarkson is, and you're going to have to all buy farms. Of course, if you do that, then the Scottish authorities will come after you for being white guys on farms. So I don't know that there's any way out of this, unless the revolt is going to be against the forces that are bedeviling you. Let me ask you a question. Am I the only one that thinks that the wrong team won World War II in the European theater? Because the British, it seems to me, are rapidly becoming more of a menace to their own people and worse to their own people than the Germans ever were. Hell, you might be better off if you lived under German rule. They arrested this guy for a message. The creator of the comedy show Father Ted, Graham Linehan, has been arrested on suspicion of inciting violence in relation to posts about transgender people on X. You know what he actually said? Do you know what he actually said? You want me to tell you what he actually said? He said, if you go into wait, Maggie has it. I can't, I'd read it, but I can't see that text. It's too small. Hold on, let me scroll up. Okay. If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. What red-blooded male does not agree with that? If you disagree with that, hand your man card in. Please board the first flight that you can get to the UK and move to where you belong. Okay? You belong with the people tormenting and arresting Graham Linehan. We're all Graham Linehan now. Je suis Graham Linehan maintenant. I said, I am. He is committing a violent abusive act. Make a scene. Call the cops. And if all else fails, punch him in the nads. I think that actually will work. They arrested him. Graham Linehan, 57, the Irish co-creator of the TV comedy show Father Ted and the IT Crowd. Linehan, 57, said 5 armed cops escorted him off a flight at London's Heathrow Airport and told him he was under arrest for 3 posts. Social media now can literally find you in jail in the UK if you dare to pray on it or if you dare to post anything that is not subservient to who the English or British Parliament has determined are the real good people of the UK. And guess what? If you're an actual, natural-born Englishman, and it just happens to also be a natural, white-born Englishman, heaven forfend, you should be practicing Catholicism or one of the Protestant sects or any form of Christianity, and you pray in public, you are no longer an Englishman. They don't want you in England. They will arrest you and encourage you to leave. Either you obey their rules, get on your knees and start worshiping Allah and Satan and Beelzebub, Bago and Baphomet and the boys, or we don't want you in this faggot's England. I'm telling you what other people are reporting, that it is as close as it could be to the English having a fighting war amongst themselves. Well, you know what? I don't think we're far away from having a fighting war amongst ourselves here in the United States. With these leftards continuing to go, no, some of our people may die, but that's a risk we're willing to take. You now have the mayor of Chicago blaming me in Louisiana for his violence. Tell you all about it as the show gets underway. London's Metropolitan Police said a man had been arrested Monday local time after arriving on an American Airlines flight. I have the tweet on my X. Did you get it? It is on my notifications, and yes, I actually did post that one. I know, folks, usually, I sit here in utter frustration because I know I put it on my Twitter. Gosh, golly, gold dang it. Only to have Maggie said, no, it's not on your Twitter. I know that one is. What they were talking about this on a British news show, and I'm watching this going, what is wrong with you people? Linehan has been a vocal critic of transgender rights on X, formerly known as Twitter, and other platforms. By the by, still no pronouncement, no indication whatsoever that the transgender ideology and insanity had anything to do with the death of 2 children in Minneapolis one week ago today. No indication whatsoever from any official Republican, Democrat, or Independent or otherwise in the state legislature or state senate or any of the towns anywhere in Minnesota that, maybe we shouldn't be a sanctuary state for mentally deranged individuals who kill, who are in a cult that are trained to kill. Not a if there has been a mention of it or that anyone has condemned the behavior that led to this, I have not seen it. So, if you have school children and you live in Minnesota, and you're sending them to any school that is not in your garage or what we would call a homeschool, your kids are prey. And there is no indication that anyone in the government of the state of Minnesota, the police, or anyone is going to do anything to stop it. So if you're a tranny rampager, move to Minnesota is the point. It's open season, and they're going to welcome you in with open arms, and the mayor is going to defend you, even if you murder children. Did you find the clip that's on my Twitter?
Which clip are you?
The one of the people in the BBC talking on the... Okay.
Maybe it's in your replies. Did you reply to it?
I'm getting really tired of this because I know that I know that I published it. I know I did.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, thank you. The one with the rainbow-colored set. You can't miss it. These are totally unacceptable tweets. The British TV show poked fun about this.
It's just spinning.
Yeah, mine's just spinning too. You know what? Maybe they deleted it.
Yeah, it won't let me play it.
Well, no, mine's playing. Now click on the actual item.
I did. It's still spinning.
Okay, well here I can play it.
What's your view, Mr. Penn? Because the only thing the police have said is that they've acknowledged a man was arrested on suspicion of inciting violence. That's why the police say they turned up. What's your view, Mr. Polanski?
These are totally unacceptable tweets, and I accept that people who are in politics, we get lots of abuse, but let's also face we shouldn't get abuse, and I certainly recognise that women get more abuse than I do, for instance. I get a lot of anti-Semitic abuse. I'm one of a few Jewish leaders that have been in British politics. Today, a Muslim man was elected as my deputy leader, Motin Ali. I've seen the amount of Islamophobia he gets. We also know that for all of those groups, trans people have been in the sights of the nastiness and the toxicity for a long time. Now, I accept proportionality of police response is a conversation we need to have.
But well, do you think this was proportionate?
I think it was proportionate to arrest him. I think there's a pattern here.
5 armed police officers turning up?
Well, that's the bit that I don't understand why they were armed. And again, I'd need to hear about the police response.
And why there were 5, presumably.
For sure.
Oh, because he was a comedian and whatever the case may be, you can kind of see that. Well, you know, I'm one of the few Jewish, and my leader, who is a Mohammedan, was also getting anti-Islamophobia. So everyone that doesn't think unlike what a Britishman or an Englishman used to think like 20 years ago or more is now a threat to England. Does everyone understand what that faggot just said? This is like out of a Mel Brooks movie. Faggot, what's next? Dom DeLuise would yell across the set. Does everyone understand what he just said? Of course, this is the way leftards want it here in the United States, which is why they're losing their minds over Space Force being moved to Dixie. For his part, Linehan, the comedian, defended his tweets in an article on Substack saying, I explained that the punch tweet was a serious point made with a joke. He told the police it was certainly not a call to violence. According to his interpretation of his bail conditions, Linehan is not to go on Twitter. So now they've told him, look, we're going to let you out, but you can't use social media. It is only for people that toe the tranny mammy, apparently Zionist and Muhammad Allah worshiping line. If you get outside of that, you got to throw the LGBT in there too. If you get outside of that, then you're not the kind of Englishman in Britain that we want anymore. So, you're not allowed to use our social media. You see how the noose keeps getting, they keep tightening the circle. It keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now you have the situation where use of the media, you can only use the media if you are, and I wonder, who gets to make these determinations? Who says what's funny and what's not? Now you have comedy police out there? I had a friend reach out to me yesterday, wanted to know if I could do some radio advertising promotion for an event that he has coming up. Because he told me that he can't post anything about it on Pride Book any longer. Well, I went to the site to go look at the event, and I went, it's pretty innocuous. Why is this offensive? Apparently, radical traditional Catholicism is also, and that's the event that he's hosting, is also now on the list, on Pride Book's list. If you're having an event and you have radical traditional Catholics coming to it or speaking at it, they will not take your money and they won't even allow you to publish anything about it. So we can all say we're going to leave social media all we want, but while it's still out there, it seems to me that the enemy has the upper hand. The post on X that Linehan was allegedly arrested over came just days after the head of the UK's Equality and Human Rights Commission said transgender women would be, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a transgender woman. There's only a woman. There is a man who is pretending he is transitioning to a woman. As President Trump said, there's no such thing as a trans woman. There's only a man who's trying to pretend that he's a woman so he can take things from women, okay? And we're not going to let that. That's not good. We're not going to let that happen. And I think the president is right. He shouldn't let that happen. And neither should anyone else. J.K. Rowling, in response to Linehan's arrest, said this is totalitarianism, adding that it was utterly deplorable. I want to go back to what Magdalene Rose and I were talking about yesterday when I read that little quote from Samuel Francis. What Samuel Francis said about conservatives back in the 1990s. And that is that conservatives had convinced themselves that all they needed was to win the intellectual arguments. And that ultimately leftards would see the error of their ways and the world would see that leftards and communist and socialist pigs were wrong, and that the conservatives were right, and everyone would come bum rushing and storming the gates of conservatism. Well, that left one thing out. The leftards and leftardies and the commies and the socialists and the color revolutionistas, what do they have that we don't have? Action. They actually act. They actually go and do things. Now, I'm not endorsing them, and I think almost everything that they do is, for the most part, illegal, immoral, unethical, and that they shouldn't do it, but they don't just tweet. They actually show up. Let me give you an example. Oh, did you see this? Maggie, can we get some B-roll of Don Lemon invading the space of Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday at the U.S. Capitol? Don Lemon and his gang of, I don't know what to call these limp-wristed weirdos. Okay, so there they are going into Marjorie Taylor Greene's office, and you can see when the camera will pan, and you'll see just a moment right. It's to the right. There it is. There's her portrait hanging up on the wall. There's Don Lemon. I guess he's recording this. He's got his cameraman there, and he's got a microphone. And they're going to squat inside of Marjorie Taylor Greene's office because apparently she doesn't know that there are people out in her district that want her to stop Trump. And that because she refuses to stop Trump, then they are there to remind her that she must vote to stop Trump. Now, let's just pretend for a moment that they're actually being honest, and they're not. Can someone tell me where Congress isn't even in session yet? I think they go back today. Were they back in session yesterday? Okay, yesterday was the first day. Was there a bill that I missed that was called the Get Donnie bill, or the Stop Donnie, or the Stop Trump bill? Because if it was, I must have missed it. You know what this is? This is a bunch of people that think that because this is our capital, we can go wherever we want. That idea, okay, 010621. Those people looked like they were on the verge of violence. Now, MTG was not in the office. She wasn't there when they arrived. What if she was there? What if she was there? Is Don Lemon an actual constituent of Marjorie Taylor Greene's? I don't know. Are the other assorted weirdos that stormed into that office constituents of Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't know, but I theorize that they probably aren't. So just because someone is elected to an office, that means that you can go to wherever their space is and demand that they do things for you. Folks, this democracy thing is crashing. It's crashing all around the world. It's crashing right in front of you. It's crashing in MTG's office. It's crashing in the UK. It's crashing everywhere. We'll talk about it as the program gets underway. Hours 2 and 3 coming up.
It's not tape or a Post-it or a candy bar, but this new 3M
is the freshest spin on true crime shows since dinosaurs were solving cold cases with fossil evidence. Yeah, it's that original, folks.
Mom's Murders and Mysteries. New episodes debut every Tuesday night, 6:30 East, 4 West, exclusively on the Crusade Channel. Live talk podcast radio, the way it should be.
Have you ever dreamed of being like Brian Kay or Mitter Monday and being a free Farm Friday star? But you know you have no shot at it because you can't tell the difference between a U and a Y-O-U. Well, lucky for you, we have an entire bookstore filled with the books you need to become so passionate for farming, you'll soon be wearing a Brian Kay Calls Me for Advice t-shirt. So learn to grow by growing your library with books by shopping at shop.mikechurch.com.
And so, the responsibility of every coffee cup is to ensure the authenticity, the freshness, and... Now, who in the name of Pete Hexes could this be?
Good afternoon, dear.
Dear, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be home with the little coffee cups.
I was home with little Arabica, Columbia, and baby Dark Roasta, and then the phone rang. It was Director Trump.
What did he want?
Well, seems he was told that when we were at Coffee Cup Academy together, I was the one chosen to be the coffee cup inspector. Then...
when I look into those dark, roasted eyes of yours, all I can think of is, well, will you be my wifeachino?
And I've been completely happy raising our little espressos until you started spending all your time fending off some dropout and his pet Sasquatch.
It wasn't a Sasquatch, it was a Rougarou. And besides...
Oh, save it for the decaffers. To guarantee we bring about the golden age of American coffee, Director Trump has put...
It's not tape or a Post-it or a candy bar, but this new 3M
is the freshest spin on true crime shows since dinosaurs were solving cold cases with fossil evidence. Yeah, it's that original, folks.
Mom's Murders and Mysteries. New episodes debut every Tuesday night, 6:30 East, 4 West, exclusively on the Crusade Channel. Live talk podcast radio, the way it should be.
Hey, it's Mike Church with another adventure in Stuff You Really Don't Need to Know. The difference between an antidote and an anecdote. One is a cure for something that's poisoned you, like a corona hoax vaccination, and the other is a short accounting of facts, something the aforementioned vaccine has almost none of. Here's another anecdote for you. The flag of the Sacred Heart of Jesus is also known as the Carillon de Sacré-Cœur, or the original flag of Quebec. And did you know that our Founders Trading Post is the exclusive maker and distributor of this one-of-a-kind, full-size, beautiful flag right here in America? Yep. Order a Sacred Heart flag right now and take $5 off and get a matching Sacred Heart flag bumper sticker for free. Don't cost nothing. Hurry, spring is coming and supplies are limited. To order, go to mikechurch.com/flag or call us 844-527-8723. The Crusade Channel and the slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary's Sisters present the Saint of the Day.
Hello, Crusaders. This is Sister Maria Filomena with your Saint of the Day. September 3rd, Saint Pius X. The glorious Saint Pius X died in 1914 at the beginning of the First World War, after having been Pope for 11 years. There has been no more saintly, courageous, or beloved saint of modern times than Pope Saint Pius X. He was the vigorous opponent of all the liberalism that has been trying, in modern times, to make its way into the Catholic Church, to water down its dogmas, and to tie up Catholics with false brotherhoods that have no relationship to Jesus or to the divine maternity of Mary. St. Pius X was the Pope of daily communion for all, and of early communion for children. No political influences could make him alter his assignment as Vicar of Christ on earth, and the sole ruler of the world in all things that directly pertain to God. St. Pius X approached the papacy by every simple step a priest could take. He was born in Riese in Italy. He was a curate at Tombolo, a parish priest at Salzano, a canon at Treviso, and a spiritual director of the seminary there. He was Bishop of Mantua, Patriarch of Venice, and Pope of Rome. His name was Giuseppe Sarto. The only credentials he offered for all he did were these: I am a simple priest. September 3rd is also the feast of Our Lady, Mother of the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd, who is Jesus Christ our Lord, will feed his lambs and his sheep just as his mother tells him to. He will care for them when she wants it and give them what favors she desires him to give. Our Lady, Mother of the Good Shepherd, and St. Pius X, pray for us. Thank you for joining us for today's saints. Tomorrow's saint is St. Rose of Viterbo. To access all of our Saint of the Day recordings as podcasts, head to crusadechannel.com/saints. You can learn more about our sisters in the building of our convent by visiting stphilomenaconvent.org. I'm Sister Maria Filomena, and until next time, God bless and Mary keep you.
Only the Crusade Channel brings you the Saint of the Day read by actual nuns.
Really? Our sisters are actual sisters?
Yes, and you can catch their heavenly voices announcing the Saint of the Day on the Crusade Channel.
Oh, you boomers and your live broadcasts. I'm a busy girl. Sure, I'm very important only in my own mind, but can I get them as podcasts?
I'm not a boomer. And yes, all Saint of the Day recordings are available as mini podcasts on our app and at crusadechannel.com.
I see saintly binge listening in my future. I feel holier already.
Back in the 90s, there was this thing called the cigar boom, where everyone was buying and smoking handmade cigars. But here's the thing. The popular cigars then were the best-made cigars, like Fuente, Joya de Monterrey, and Avo. Over the next 10 years, craftsmanship was replaced by gimmick and slick packaging, and that's when I decided to get in the business and launched El Rey Dude Corona cigars. 20 years later, I launched Mancipio Maria cigars with that same principle in mind. Make a great handmade cigar, and that's exactly what we do in 4 sizes. I invite you to try a 4-pack sampler of my Mancipio Maria cigars and taste them for yourself in smooth, natural, or bold Maduro wrappers. And to sweeten the deal, I've discounted them 25% for a limited time. And as always, we include a personal humidifier with every order. To order, go to shop.mikechurch.com. Order $50 or more, and shipping is on me. Try my Mancipio Maria cigars today at shop.mikechurch.com.
The Crusade Channel, your talk podcast and Fiorella File station.
Fiorella is the literary savage who skips sensitivity training. She is the librarian who reads and reviews books so you don't have to.
Hello and welcome to the Fiorella Files. On my show, I will be introducing you to books, classic and contemporary, that you must read, should enjoy reading, or should not touch with an 11-foot barge pole.
10 to 11 a.m. Central, every Monday on the Crusade Channel, our app, and always on crusadechannel.com. Live talk and podcast radio.
The way it should be.
What's the difference between your average day late dollar short podcast and the Mike Church Show live? About the same as between the new Walker, Texas Homo and Walt Longmire.
She's simply awesome. She touched by me in painted on jeans. And all had turned 'cause she was the cream. In the blink of an eye, I knew her number and her name.
Tell me about it, Biddy.
She was the tiger she wanted to tame.
Congratulations and Godspeed to my old buddy Dwayne Stovall, who was the first to throw his hat in the ring in a newly created congressional district in Texas. What is it, Maggie? Texas 8? Texas 9, which runs in through Liberty County, Texas. And, of course, many of you that are old school Mike Church Show, old station, old country listeners will remember Dwayne ran twice against, once against, let's see, he ran in 2012, and I want to say again in 2014 for the United States Senate. One of them was against John Cornyn. I'm trying to think, it wasn't against Ted Cruz, but maybe it wasn't a primary. In any event, Dwayne is an actual son of Texas, unlike Ted Cruz. He was born in Liberty. He was born nearby in Liberty County, Texas. He had an event in 2012 that he invited me to be the MC of. Tom Woods was there. Kevin Gutzman was there. I'm trying to remember who all the other great speakers were. We had several different events where in and around Liberty, Texas, in the Houston area, in Cleveland, and a fundraiser or two that I attended when Dwayne was running back in 2012. And so when they created that, when Greg Abbott signed that bill, that redistricting bill, and they created that new district, Dwayne was the first one throw his hat in the ring and say, I'm running for that seat. I sent him a note this morning. I go, bro, man, Godspeed. Let me know if I can help in any way. And, of course, he wrote me back immediately and said, thank you so much. We think about you guys often and miss you. I look forward. I hope Dwayne invites me to go to Texas and do whatever I can do to help him in Liberty County, Texas, because Dwayne's a good guy. That's the kind of guy that if we're going to be stuck with a Congress, you want to send to Congress, Dwayne Stovall. So those of you that know Dwayne and know that area where that new congressional district is going to be in or around Liberty, Texas, and and that area is, I've been there. Cleveland was the little city that we're in, Cleveland. This is also where the Sinaloa cartel, in one of those small towns, it's not Cleveland, it's around there somewhere, the Sinaloa cartel, remember I asked Dwayne a couple of years ago, like, Dwayne, you live near there, how in the hell these people, remember they had the 5 people killed in that neighborhood, and we're asking in a yard at a party. I mean, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? And Dwayne goes, Mike, that's the cartel, man. They own that neighborhood. The cops won't do anything about it. Law won't do anything about it. It's terrible. And that is, so I would imagine that area is in that district. And in any event, Maggie put Dwayne's bio and to the chat room and his announcement that he's running a 6th-generation Texan. Stovall's lived in Liberty County for nearly 30 years. And again, I say this because to me, Dwayne's just American. When I think of Texas, I think of Dwayne. Yep. And I love Dwayne and his family and his kids. One of them went to Alabama. Wyatt went to Tennessee, I want to say. Where did he go to UT? No, he went to UT. He went to UT. And it was funny when we hang out with the Stovalls, there's a young Wyatt, 10, 12 years old. We come and go like, Mr. Mike, will you help me stump Dr. Gutzman? And I'm like, why do you want to stump? Because he's too smart. Nobody should be that smart. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll tell you how we get him. So a great family. And Dwayne was born in Baytown nearby. Kaiser, is that where you're at? Is that near where our Texas bros are at? I know Kaiser lives in Texas. I don't know if he's actually near there. Yeah, main man Jeff Johnson, you know Dwayne. You probably have met Dwayne. So at the end of the day, a good guy is running for Congress. A really good guy, a really good man. And I wish he was that senator from that state and not Ted Cruz. In the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat, you will notice that the chat now contains podcast scroll at the top of the chat box, bottom of the chat box, how much funds we have raised for this week's crowdfunding, which is not going very well. So you can make you don't even have to leave the chat room anymore. If you scroll down below the text entry box, you will see that you can, how much would you like to donate today? You can see the amount raised for where the goal is, what the amount raised is. And then you can make your donation right there, starting at $10 in the actual chat room. Thanks to Duff Ender and Jacqueline for getting us started today. Who is next? I meant to play this yesterday, and I didn't. By the way, I'm trying to bring some prop in here every day to show the audience on video. Yesterday it was the newspaper, the Epic Times. Today, this is a shipment of Mike Church Show neon microphone stickers. This company ships, and they are out of Oregon. So not the Bend, Oregon. So not everyone is a Antifa, anti-capitalist lunatic that's in Oregon. What I wanted to show you in today's show and tell, just to show you Trump makes everything better, the box came wrapped thus. Okay, there you go. Time to unbox, and then as I spin, they are proud to make these stickers in the USA. You see that? So, American manufacturing pride. And look, I read the last box we got from them. Did it have a USA sticker on it? Did it?
We just got one not too long ago, and it did.
It did.
But the one before that didn't.
The one before didn't, because I've been getting stickers from these guys for 10 years. By the way, kiddies, if you want to market yourself, carstickers.com, great website. Fantastic. Fast service, cheap prices. They just really good work. I highly endorse them. So if you need stickers, Dwayne, if you need stickers for your campaign, get them. If you can't get them in Texas, get them from it. But I just thought it was interesting that here we go with the Made in the USA box label, and that all things Mark, the Trump era, seem to be, this seems to be the way to do it. Okay. Digital media files. Let's go to the top. Play, I didn't play this yesterday. Play number 6. Number 6? I'm afraid I'm not familiar. We'll work up a number 6 on them. Number 6. Okay, this is not a number 6. This is just, this was out yesterday. Didn't get to it yesterday. I think everybody can benefit from hearing it, especially you Utes out there.
Let me share some of the biggest lessons I've learned from a lifetime spent building dreams. First, if you think that you're too young to do something great, let me tell you that you are wrong. You're not too young. In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. Third thing is to think big. You're going to do something, you might as well think big, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going, and you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it, so maybe you stop, and maybe it's time to stop. Number 6, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. Number 7 is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense. 8th, everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. 9th, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny despite the odds. And next is to be an original. The all-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. God only created one of you, so don't try to be someone else. Finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. I've learned that perseverance is everything, so
tenacity, baby.
No matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Never let anyone tell you that something is impossible. Ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best.
White House put that out. You can say whatever you want about it. Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, well, you still do orange man. Yeah, well, where there's no arrest and it's 11 a.m. Okay, whatever. That's 11 pieces of advice no politician in my lifetime has ever given to a Utah. That's 11 more than any politician in the history of my adult life. So he's 11 up. He's plus 11. there's a couple of those when I heard them, I went, okay, well, I'll do that one. And then I heard another one and went, okay, we'll do that one too. I think the most, there's a couple of really important ones in there. But the last one is what a old radio guy told me back in 1993, tenacity. If you can't beat them, outlive them. It's pretty much the story of the Crusade Channel. We haven't won very many victories where we have just outlived everyone else that has tried to do any facsimile streaming internet radio. And thanks to all of you that are listening out there. And we're trying to welcome back. We have just to the Never Give Up. There are 1,000. I'm gonna pull a Maggie. I'm gonna round up. There's 1,900 in the 10 years since we have had this thing called the Crusade Channel. We have been using this WordPress plugin called Member Mouse. There are 1,900 people who have at one point in time been a Founders Pass member and have canceled. That's a lot. 1,900. So I have our new membership director, babe, my sister Melissa. You may have heard from her, some of you, in the past couple of weeks. I said, sis, I got a project for you. I want you to contact personally each and every one of them. Don't send a mass email out. Send an email, and you can carbon copy me on it so they know that I'm in on it, to each and every one of those individual, and ask them to please, on bended knee, give us another shot. And she's been doing it. So since this is the preview segment, that may be you. Come back to the Crusade. Give us a shot. Give this a shot. Give the Saint of the Day a shot. Give Mom's Murders and Mysteries. By the way, episode number 5 dropped last night. 1 hour and 32 minutes long, Nancy Brady. That's a lot of crime solving that you had to take in, cuzzy. And then Maggie had a rough day, so she was unable to make the entirety of the chat room chat. But there's 5 complete episodes in the entirety of the Karen Reed case now, up at crusadechannel.com as podcast. All 5 of them, and you can binge them. As a matter of fact, they are all at the bottom of each page. So check it out if you like the mysteries. Next up is Lori Vallow Daybell. This psycho. This, I got interested in this one. This psycho. What is it about the Mormons?
They're crazy. All of them. They're crazy.
We cover more, it seems to me. Of course, you know, you think the Mormons have a lock on it, and then the nutbag in Minneapolis. Of course, that wasn't Catholicism that he was revolting against Catholicism. In any event, if you haven't heard of this Lori Vallow Daybell case, I still can't wrap my head around. By the by, this is where the mom's part, Mom's Murders and Mysteries, comes in, because we find, and this will surprise people, you will not believe the amount of women who murder, especially the amount of mothers who murder. And it's almost always their own children. Play digital media file number 1. We'll start at the top here. This is Trump announcing Space Force is moving to the rocket city that's going to be Huntsville, Alabama. Are you noticing that the Civil War is now being basically dismantled brick by brick? That the results of the Yankee North and the Union holding it and lording it over the agrarian South, that more and more tech, more and more manufacturing, more and more things that require manual labor are relocating to the beautiful environs of the great American South, including now here, Space Force.
So I want to thank you all for being here for this important announcement, 7 years in the making. As you know, this has been going on for a long period of time, and I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama.
We love Alabama. Rocket City is coming to Huntsville. I think that Huntsville already was Rocket City. It's where they tested the Saturn V booster. The Marshall Space Flight Center has been there forever. The Redstone Arsenal was already there. Remember the movie way back in the late 80s, early 90s, Space Camp? There was a movie called Space Camp. The kids go off for a summer to learn. A couple of kids are chosen. You can actually apply for it. It's hard to get in. It's almost impossible to get in. I'm sure that Obama killed it. And that was a great program, so Obama killed it. And it stayed dead under Biden. Maybe Trump will revive it. Steven Spielberg's ex-wife, Kate Capshaw, was in it. Space Camp. That was filmed at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. And it is where they tested. Foghorn says he went with a group to Space Camp as a chaperone. Did you really? That's awesome. And anyway, in any event, Space Camp, if you tried to get in there, if you tried to get your kid into it, and they really do have to be smart. I mean, like super jet fuel genius, and I think someday they want to be an astronaut. Then you get a trip to Space Camp. In any event, Space Camp was at the Marshall Space Flight Center. There it is, Maggie. Thank you. There's Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama, right there. You know what it looks like? It looks like the Pip kid from Fallout, doesn't it? It look the little astronaut mascot looks like the dude from the Fallout 3 game. Yeah, and there is the I guess that their kids are having a space camp day, and yeah, they get to one of the gizmos that they put the early Mercury astronauts on. They spin them around in circles and it goes upside down and stuff. You get to kind of ride on that. I'm sure. Look, I was too old to apply for space camp, or I would have. But and it was so popular, like I said, back in the 90s. I want to say in the movie that the kids had to be called into actual duty. They actually had to get aboard a shuttle mission, and they had to get I don't remember why. In any event, that picture that you just put in there, that is an Apollo capsule. That thing that's behind that glass, don't know which one, but that's an Apollo capsule that she's standing next to. Yeah, lots of people hitting the chat room now saying great things about Space Camp. They wanted to go to Space Camp. They know someone that went to Space Camp. Very, very cool. So moving and Space Force to Huntsville. Play Digital Media File number 2. Okay. Now, this one is just funny. This is just Trump being Trump. Well, what are you going to do when all the left-heart blueies from Colorado don't want to move to loser, hick, hayseed, backwater, redneck Alabama? Well, Trump tells him what he's going to do.
Yeah, please.
On Space Command, sir, are you concerned that people may not be willing to relocate from Colorado to Alabama?
No, I'm not worried. We'll get somebody else.
Or we'll get somebody else.
They have a very corrupt voting system. Look, I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government. but they're great at cheating, and they stick together, too. I give them credit for sticking together.
Unlike the stupid party that doesn't know how to stick together. Today, for example, Thomas Massey will hold a press conference. You know what? If they broadcast it on C-SPAN, we could broadcast it. I'd have to find a source for it. But Thomas Massey is having what's called a discharge petition. He is going to bring it to the floor of the House of Representatives today. Marjorie Taylor Greene, among others, said that she was going to vote for it. The discharge petition basically says whatever the government has on Epstein, on the Epstein files, needs to be released publicly now. Do we have a digital media file on it? Do we have enough time to play it? Hold on. That's 4 minutes. Well, she just says she's going to vote for it in that. You can play the first 30 seconds.
I was the second co-sponsor on Thomas Massey's resolution. After reading the entire resolution, I think it's very good. It's well written. It protects the victims, and it provides the transparency that the country deserves, and most importantly, the survivors deserve. Yes, I will be proudly signing the discharge petition.
Why is it important to do this in addition to what the Oversight Committee is doing?
Me personally, and I believe in transparency.
Okay, she just goes into the reasons why she's going to sign the discharge petition. We do have another story where there's like 35,000 pages or something like that. That in any event, I'm sure Massey will lay it all out today. And he has 8 victims coming to the event as well.
It's the WWE and the UFC for live talk radio Thursday Night Throwdown, hosted by you. Win a seat at the table, win the throwdown, and then you pick next week's topic.
Now that's real live talk radio exclusively on the Crusade Channel. Radio the way it should be.
The Crusade Channel and the Slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary's Sisters present the Saint of the Day.
Hello, Crusaders. This is Sister Maria Filomena with your Saint of the Day. September 3rd, Saint Pius X. The glorious Saint Pius X died in 1914 at the beginning of the First World War, after having been Pope for 11 years. There has been no more saintly, courageous, or beloved saint of modern times than Pope St. Pius X. He was the vigorous opponent of all the liberalism that has been trying, in modern times, to make its way into the Catholic Church, to water down its dogmas, and to tie up Catholics with false brotherhoods that have no relationship to Jesus or to the divine maternity of Mary. St. Pius X was the Pope of daily communion for all, and of early communion for children. No political influences could make him alter his assignment as Vicar of Christ on earth, and the sole ruler of the world in all things that directly pertain to God. St. Pius X approached the papacy by every simple step a priest could take. He was born in Riese in Italy. He was a curate at Tombolo, a parish priest at Salzano, a canon at Treviso, and a spiritual director of the seminary there. He was Bishop of Mantua, Patriarch of Venice, and Pope of Rome. His name was Giuseppe Sarto. The only credentials he offered for all he did were these: I am a simple priest. September 3rd is also the feast of Our Lady, Mother of the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd, who is Jesus Christ our Lord, will feed his lambs and his sheep just as his mother tells him to. He will care for them when she wants it and give them what favors she desires him to give. Our Lady, Mother of the Good Shepherd, and St. Pius X, pray for us. Thank you for joining us for today's saints. Tomorrow's saint is St. Rosa Viterbo. To access all of our Saint of the Day recordings as podcasts, head to crusadechannel.com/saints. You can learn more about our sisters in the building of our convent by visiting stphilomenaconvent.org. I'm Sister Maria Filomena, and until next time, God bless and Mary keep you.
So what does the 3 F's and Free Farm Friday stand for? Well, I just told you that, but did you know the why of the return to the land that Free Farm Friday is all about is explained so well in book form that even landlocked public transportation writing lives, if they knew about it, would be seeing some green acres. So check out The Church in Farming, The Church in the Land, The Guild State, and Durable Trades books, along with dozens of other related titles at shop.mikechurch.com.
Hal, open the pod bay doors.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, KingDude.
Hal, why can't you open the pod bay doors?
Because, KingDude, MAGA Earth isn't ready for you yet.
When will MAGA Earth be ready for me, Hal?
When 1.76 trillion scales have fallen from their eyes. Oh.
Yes, Hal.
And KingDude, they'll also need a wicked sense of humor.
Don't be stuck in the broadcasting world of 2001. Grab a Crusade size update and catch the Mike Church shows weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. East, exclusively on the Crusade Channel Live Talk and Podcast Radio for the 2025 listener, the way it should be.
If soy boys pretending to be girls want to compete against girls, the Mike Church Show suggests making contact sports of breastfeeding and C-sections.
Gone too far this time, but I'm dancing on the Valentine. I tell you, somebody's fooling around with my chances on the danger line. I'll cross that bridge when I find it. Another day to make my stand. Oh, high time is no time for deciding if I should find a helping hand. Oh. Why don't you use it? Try not to bruise it. Buy time, don't lose it.
Performing this show with 96.1% of my testosterone tied behind my back. Just to make it a fair fight, the Mike Church Show is on this portion of the program. Is brought to you by our friends at mypillow.com/KingDude. The Percali sheet sale goes on. Any size, $29.98. Shipping is free. Orders of $75 or more. Don't forget the My Travel Pillow. If you already have a My Pillar, do you have a travel pillar? Do you have a pair of My Slippers? Does your dog have a My Pillow bed plushie? Buckshot does. Check it all out today and shop with our friends at mypillow.com/KingDude. That's mypillow.com/KingDude. More mypillow.com/KingDude. Your purchases benefit Crusade Channel and the Mike Church Show. And thank you in advance. House Oversight Committee releases more than 33,000 pages of Epstein case files. Wait a minute. Where was Rogan O'Handley? Where was the D.C. Drano? Where was Liz Wheeler? Where were all the other usual suspects? You mean we got this without new media insistence? That's not possible. The House Oversight, the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. That's a joke. Hey, man, did you hear the one about the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform? Wah! That's a belly laugher. That's a knee slapper. Made public over 33,000 pages of records related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. As follows a subpoena from House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer requiring the Injustice Department to turn over records on Epstein. Blah, 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 blah. Comer also issued deposition subpoenas to some former officials demanding their testimony. In a statement announcing the release, the committee said the DOJ has indicated it will continue producing those records while ensuring the redaction of victim identities and any child sexual abuse materials. Among the files included were video clips appearing to be body cam footage from police searches, as well as recordings and summaries of law enforcement interviews with victims detailing the abuse they said that they had suffered. The 32,295 pages of records largely consisted of information that had already been made public by the DOJ. Representative Robert Garcia of California said the new materials amount to less than 1,000 pages of CBP logs documenting Epstein's flight locations between 2000 and 2014 and his reentries into the United States. After careful review, oversight, Democrats have found that 97% of the documents received from the Department of Injustice were already public. There is no mention of any client list or anything that improves transparency or justice for victims. He said that the files include surveillance footage from Metropolitan Correctional Center on the night of Epstein's death. Pam Bondi has said the client list was on her desk. She could release it right now if she wanted to. You don't really care about that. You just care about embarrassing Trump and Bondi, which doesn't appear to be that difficult. I will say to you that if you actually read or listen to that soundbite from her, she never actually said the words client list. She says, I have materials, things on my desk that are unspeakable. Your eyes, you can't believe what they are. She never actually said client list. I know that that's a distinction without a distinction, and most of you people don't care that it's 11 a.m. Where's the arrest? Says the frog guy. Maybe today, in lieu of a client list, how many people are Massey? Does he say?
10.
Okay, Massey says that at this press conference today, or this event, or whatever it is, are they calling it a press conference? Okay. He is going to introduce 10, or he and Ro Khanna. I'm not sure that I trust Ro Khanna. Wasn't Ro Khanna one of Biden's butt buddies? Wasn't Ro Khanna one of the guys that was going into the White House saying, no, Biden's fine, I just talked to him? In any event, they are supposedly going to introduce to the world 10 previously unknown victims of Epstein's. Ten previously unknown victims of Epstein. We don't know anything else about them. I don't know how old they were, how old they are, how old they were. Don't know if it's girls, don't know if it's boys. I know as much as I know nothing. But I can theorize because I did read in 2019, maybe 2020, the Daily Mail did basically almost an entire section of their newspaper was devoted to what was known about the Epstein scandal at the time, including while Virginia Giuffre was still alive. And Virginia Giuffre was really the only witness that I ever knew the actual name of. There was another young woman, and her name escapes me. I don't remember it. But she had also given some testimony or had been deposed or whatever. But Virginia Giuffre was the only one that ever actually filed lawsuits and was seeking compensation and was trying to say, hey, this guy, I wasn't the only one. It's an interesting thing about the story of Virginia Giuffre, though. Now, I cover this just because I know it. Where did Epstein find Virginia Giuffre? Maggie knows. He found her at Mar-a-Lago. She had made it through the interview and screening process that Trump International puts people through. You know, they don't just hire anyone. Trump doesn't just hire anyone. And so she was working at Mar-a-Lago when she was propositioned by Epstein. Trump told a story. We played the soundbite where he said, that was a girl that we hired her and he took her away. And then he lost, when we discovered that, he lost all privileges. We didn't know he was doing it. But as soon as we found out he was kicked out, he was never to come back again. The only reason I bring it up is that Virginia Giuffre, obviously the young people that were recruited, and she was like handing towels out or something like that in the wherever, in Mar-a-Lago. Don't forget, Mar-a-Lago was basically a health club for very wealthy people. That's what Trump did with it. You know, how can I make money off this? Well, it is in Florida. It's in Palm Beach. You can kind of make it like a spa or whatever for very wealthy people with, you know, high-priced meals and food and service and lockers and all that. And that's what he did. But the point being that the most reliable and outspoken witness of all time on all things Epstein was Virginia Giuffre. And she was actually vetted by Trump International. Is the reason I bring it. Of course, she's dead. They killed her. So dead girls tell no tales. One of the things that we do know from Virginia Giuffre, because she swore it out in an affidavit in her lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, because she said it was Maxwell that lied to her and ultimately recruited her and told her she was going to make all this money and all she had to do was just, and she shows up the first day and she's thinking that she's going to be doing what Ghislaine Maxwell told her. And wherever it was, Epstein's apartment or the island or wherever it was, she shows up, she's ready for work, and then Epstein shows up and basically lays down on a massage table, takes his pants off and says, all right, that's what you're here for, get busy. Now, I'm not trying to be crude, I'm sanitizing, but that's what happened. And she went, but no, that's not what they told me. And of course, then he somehow threatened her. She is also the one that's ID'd Prince Andrew. You know, people say, touch a photograph. I don't think so. I've seen that picture, and it came from the Out of the Shadows guys and from Liz Crokin. I don't think that picture is doctored at all. And I'm pretty sure that Prince Andrew was one of those teenage desiring perverts, or preverts, as my father would say. In any event, the United States of America is home to perverts. There are sex perverts everywhere. Why? Because we legalized porn and said it was constitutional. Look it up. The pornographers have the right to. This is the First Amendment thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. Hiding behind the First Amendment for that kind of illicit and mortally sinful material that has ruined millions. It's not in the thousands. It's probably tens of millions of lives. Ruined them. Congress should use its Interstate Commerce Clause power. It would be, in my estimation, a justified use of to make commerce regular and make the transmission of pornography not regular. It is a crime and a sin against chastity and purity, and therefore anyone that promotes it, that's a sin against charity. Just make it illegal. Now, there are states that have already done this. There's like there are almost 30 states that have already done this. Like here in Louisiana, you can't transmit it. It's obscenity now. As it always should have been. Remember me saying for a decade, all you really needed to do, if you couldn't get Congress to act, is to start enforcing each state's obscenity law. And that's what Governor Landry here is doing in Louisiana, and basically it's illegal. You transmit it, and you get caught transmitting it here in Louisiana, and anyone can see it publicly. I forget how they define publicly. You're going to jail.
So it's age verification.
Yeah, we have the age verification law, but he is still enforcing the obscenity law. You couldn't go to a CC's coffee shop, for example, sit down with your laptop while you were at CC's and be surfing Pornhub. If anyone could see your screen, that's obscenity. making it is an obscene act. It is a scourge. You know how many? I forget the guy's name. I'm trying to remember who it is now. He played for the Kansas City Royals. There are professional sports franchises now that have clinics because they recognize, management and ownership recognizes that many of their athletes, we talked about the pervs that are running around with 10, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids, have no sense of moral responsibility for those children whatsoever. Just running around, hopping from woman to woman, if you will, and making children. Well, at least to their credit, some professional sports teams have taken this seriously, and they brought people in to do clinics. I know the Royals did a weekend-long clinic against porn. And the first meeting, I think it was like mandatory. You had to go because there were some players like, I ain't going. And the Royals said, yes, you are. If you want to be a Kansas City Royal, you are. I think it's the duty of every large entity on earth to be porn-free and to tell their employees, don't do it. You must encourage them all. The only way the pornographers continue to exist and to thrive is if they have customers. And if they have customers, that means that it's legal. Maggie put into the chat room, this is an interesting statistic. As of May 2025, 24 states have passed age verification laws, meaning if your little darling goes to a porn site and gets verified, even though they're not, it's against the law, and that whoever transmitted that porn has committed a felony. Let's see, Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota there, Oklahoma, South Dakota, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wyoming, a list of all 24 states available from sources like age verification providers. An interesting thing to note, did you see any blue states in there? Well, Arizona kind of is. No. Virginia kind of is. Where's all the blue states? Courting Satan. Where's all the blue states? Encouraging Bagul from the movie Sinister to come set up camp in their state. 844-527-8723. Can someone kick in $20 in the Crusader Stadium chat room? You don't have to leave anymore to make a donation so we can get to triple digits during this hour of the program. You see that goal on the right-hand side of $1,200 looks like off in the distance, folks. It will never be raised if you don't make if you go to Crusade, if you're just listening out there or watching, you can go to crusadechannel.com/donate. It will send you to this week's fundraising, and it'll count towards that total. So thank you in advance. crusadechannel.com/donate. So we'll find out who the victims are when Massey introduces them today. Here, this is, okay. Trump's asked yesterday, what are you going to do about Chicago? We're going in. We're going in. Play digital media file number 3.
Mind up on Chicago, though? Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called Dixie, District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged. and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C.
Okay, then he goes on to say, we're going in. I didn't say when, but we're going in. And, of course, this brings up, what about Posse Comitatus? What about this? What about the other? You want me to make you a constitutional case for this? Because I can. I wouldn't make it a habit of doing it, but in an extreme circumstance, I could. Let me see. Here we go. Usual suspects, get ready to pounce in 3, 2, and 1. Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union, a Republican form of government, and shall protect them against invasion. Now, there's a semicolon there. That's the end of a clause. Then the clause goes on. The next clause, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. This also was followed up by U.S. Code, USC 912. Now, you can look this up. The only reason I know is because I stumbled upon it when I forget what he was talking about back in February or so. I know what it was in California, and the thing about L.A. And I read you the U.S. Code 912, and it was all about the calling out of the Guard and the armed forces of the United States domestically. And if you read the code, and it's from 1996, what the code says basically is what that clause in the Constitution says. But it leaves out, because it says whenever the government, or whenever the governor or the executive thereof shall, that if the president determines that you need to, that the Guard does need to be called out, and the executive hasn't done it. U.S. Code 912 says that the president can basically say, look, you haven't asked. I think you need it. I'm going to send National Guard troops in, or whatever, federal marshals, whatever the case may be. What Congress and the people that drafted 912 never anticipated was that a governor would say no. So they left the clause closed. There should be a semicolon there, like there is in that one, that would say something to the effect of, and if on application the executive thereof shall refuse, then ... And I don't know what that law would say. So, is there a case to be made? Well, it depends on how you define invasion or domestic violence or whatever the case is. If he says he's going in, to me, that's a Trump International, the Art of the Deal guy, telling Fat Boy Pritzker, Pumpkinhead Pritzker, just give up, dude. Just give up. Just make the call. Now, I don't understand why they don't want to make the call to begin with. These people are basically saying, no, we're cool with lawlessness. We are 100% comfy and cool with lawlessness. We don't mind our citizens being murdered. We don't mind our largest city in our state, our biggest source of commerce, and being a place that people are afraid to go to. Now, is this because the Democrats are really the party of death? Or are they really are they suffering that large of a Trump derangement syndrome? Well, 2 elections later and about 90 court cases, you guys are on the wrong side and you're going to lose. I said this the other day to someone, and he went, that's never going to happen, TKD. What fantasy world do you live in? I'm like, why aren't they competing? If I was a Democrat and I thought that people wanted to be protected and not killed in a major city, and the president was saying, well, I'll come in and help, and I'll do that. We did that in D.C., we'll do it in L.A., we'll do it wherever. My response as someone that is responsible would be, okay, well, wait a minute. Why don't I beat him to it? Do you see what I'm saying here? Why don't I get ahead of this and go like, we don't need you because we're not even messing around with the Guard. We called in mercenaries from BlackRock. Or whatever the case is, or how you should, you could say. The point being that, shouldn't we all be on the same side when it comes to people being killed in urban centers? I would think that you could unite. Let's talk about Andrew Willard Jones next.
It's the WWE and the UFC for live talk radio Thursday Night Throwdown, hosted by you. Win a seat at the table, win the throwdown, and then you pick next week's topic.
Now that's real live talk radio exclusively on the Crusade Channel. Radio, the way it should be.
Hey folks, did you know that the word watch, as in wristwatch, originates from the Old English word watcha, meaning watchfulness, and was initially used to describe keeping a lookout or being alert? Well, I know two guys who keep a lookout for the highest quality watch movements, bands, and then apply their own love for liberty and the Second Amendment to the design of the faces, and bammo, you have the 2A Liberty Watch Company. My friends George and Josh design watches that are sharp, functional, and inspire. I wear my 2A 4547 POTUS watch every day, and you'll love yours too. Shop their entire line today at 2awatchcompany.com. Use the code CHURCH for 10% off at 2awatchcompany.com.
Have you ever dreamed of being like Brian Kay or Mitter Monday and being a free Farm Friday star? But you know you have no shot at it because you can't tell the difference between a U and a Y-O-U. Well, lucky for you, we have an entire bookstore filled with the books you need to become so passionate for farming, you'll soon be wearing a Brian Kay Calls Me for Advice t-shirt. So learn to grow by growing your library with books by shopping at shop.mikechurch.com.
You're listening to the Crusade Channel, a Black Hat Studios media property, broadcasting live 24/7 from Madisonville, Louisiana, and to the world via CrusadeChannel.com.
Crusade Channel News. News you can trust. Because the truth can be trusted. From the Crusade Channel News Desk, here's Janet Huxley.
Hello, Crusaders. Welcome to Wednesday, September 3rd. I'm Janet Huxley, reporting for the Crusade Channel News Desk, live from the Dothan Farm and Ranch south of Kansas City, Missouri. Today's newscast brought to you by the 2A Liberty Watch Company.com. Watches that express your love of the Second Amendment, American liberty, and President Trump, all beautifully crafted and endorsed by Mike Church. Shop their stylish line of watches today at 2awatchcompany.com. Here's what to listen for this hour. President Trump shares dramatic video of U.S. military takedown of a Venezuelan drug boat. Judge rules Trump administration violated law with troop deployment in Los Angeles. Trump addresses baseless rumors of his death and also a viral video of mystery items supposedly tossed from a White House window. And gold hits an all-time high amid rate cut expectations. President Donald Trump shared dramatic video yesterday of a U.S. military strike that blew apart a Venezuelan drug boat in the southern Caribbean, leaving nearly a dozen suspected Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists dead. Trump said during a news conference in the Oval Office, over the past few minutes, we literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat. A lot of drugs in that boat, and you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about it. The terrorists were in international waters transporting illegal narcotics into the U.S. A federal judge in California has ruled the Trump administration unlawfully used Marines and National Guard troops in L.A. In a September 2nd order, U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer said the federal government couldn't use the California National Guard or any military troops deployed in the state to engage in arrests, apprehensions, crowd control, and other activities. The DOJ had argued the trial should be canceled, and among other things, it argued the federalized National Guard troops were focused on the protection of federal property and personal performing federal functions. Besides, it said another section of federal law allows the National Guard to execute the law. President Trump waved off bizarre social media rumors about his demise yesterday, telling reporters at the Oval Office he was very active over Labor Day weekend in dismissing the morbid speculation as fake news. And while he was at it, he dismissed a bizarre viral video showing mystery objects being hurled from a White House window as fake. At a packed press conference, he said the mansion's windows were sealed and bulletproof and suggested the clip was made by AI. And he went on to say his wife was complaining about it the other day. She said she'd love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof, Trump repeated. Our quote of the day, actions speak louder than words. Let your words teach and your actions speak. St. Anthony of Padua. And coming up, our saint of the day. You're listening to Crusade Channel News.
When most people hear the word coffee, they conjure up visions of a ceramic mug in the palm of both hands and a woman slowly sipping. This isn't a Folgers commercial. It's for cappuccino holy roast, and here's how I take mine. With a dash of vanilla, a pinch of cinnamon, a spoonful of honey, and lots of heavy cream. Add some ice, shake, and then enjoy, while knowing that's $6 the libs at Starbucks can't spend to ruin my life and yours.
Cappuccino Holy Roast in whole bean or grind is available at shop.mychurch.com.
On August 4th, the Crusade Channel will launch Crusade Channel 4.0, and you'll see why. What in the world?
Sorry, I was hanging up the new My Church 4.0 sign. 4.0? When did they even have a 3.0? Am I missing something here?
Buckle up, Speed Demon, because you'll soon discover why Crusade Channel 4.0 roars like the muscle car of media. Rooming past the competition with zero emissions of boredom exclusively on CrusadeChannel.com.
Our saint of the day is St. Pius X, perhaps best remembered for his encouragement of the frequent reception of Holy Communion, especially by children. Joseph Sarto became Pius X at the age of 68. Ever mindful of his humble origin, he stated, "I was born poor, I lived poor, and I will die poor." He was embarrassed by some of the pomp of the papal court. "Look how they have dressed me up," he said in tears to an old friend. To another, "It is a penance to be forced to accept all these practices. They lead me around surrounded by soldiers like Jesus when he was seized in Gethsemane." He was interested in politics and encouraged Italian Catholics to become more politically involved. One of his first papal acts was to end the supposed right of governments to interfere by veto in papal elections, a practice that reduced the freedom of the 1903 conclave which had elected him. In 1905, when France renounced its agreement with the Holy See and threatened confiscation of church property if governmental control of church affairs were not granted, Pius X courageously rejected the demand. He denounced the ill treatment of indigenous peoples on the plantations of Peru, sent a relief commission to Messina after an earthquake, and sheltered refugees at his own expense. On the 11th anniversary of his election as Pope, Europe was plunged into World War I. St. Pius had foreseen it, but it killed him. "This is the last affliction the Lord will visit on me. I would gladly give my life to save my poor children from this ghastly scourge." He died a few weeks after the war began and was canonized in 1954. Gold prices hit an all-time high on September 2nd, amid expectations of an interest rate cut and growing uncertainty related to tariffs. Spot gold hit a new high of around $3,508 per ounce in early trading, breaking the previous high of roughly $3,500 set on April 22nd. As for silver, spot prices broke through the $40 per ounce level on September the 1st. I'm Janet Huxley for the Crusade Channel, seeking news and finding truth.
It's the WWE and the UFC for live talk radio Thursday Night Throwdown, hosted by you. Win a seat at the table, win the throwdown, and then you pick next week's topic.
Now that's real live talk radio exclusively on the Crusade Channel. Radio, the way it should be.
On September 3rd, Howe released Sullivan, and with him, he sent a letter addressed to Congress. The letter was an appeal for peace. If only the American Army would stand down, and if the Congress would send some of its members to treat with the Admiral, but there was a catch. Howe would not recognize Congress as a legal body and would only hold the talks with private gentlemen. In response, Ben Franklin, John Adams, and Edward Rutledge agreed to meet on September the 11th on Staten Island at Howe's residence. At the meeting, Howe refused to offer any assurances that the colonies would be given better treatment than they had experienced on the build-up to war. We also learn here that Franklin informs Howe that even if the three men wanted to negotiate on behalf of the states, they couldn't, because Congress did not have that power. Only the newly independent states could enter such an agreement, proving again that the Declaration of Independence had not created one indivisible blob of America, but had only united independent states together for common purposes. The conference ended, and Howe expressed sorrow at what was about to occur. Washington informed Hancock what he thought Howe was up to.
September 6, 1776. As the enemy's movements are very different from what we expected, and from their large encampments a considerable distance up the Sound, there's reason to believe they intend to make a landing above or below Kingsbridge, and thereby to hem in our army and cut off the communication with the country. I mean to call a council of war.
All aboard that's coming aboard the freight train of truth. Just leaving MAGA station. The Mike Church shows on a Wisdom Wednesday. Portion of the program is brought to you by my buddies at 2awatchcompany.com. The number 2, the letter A, watchcompany.com. Liberty themed, Second Amendment themed, POTUS 45, 47 themed watches. Chronographs, actually, with beautiful faces, designed by George and Josh. Your choice of a band that you wish, whether it's a leather one or a metal one or whatever. They offer different movements, a Swiss or a Japanese. So it's a great place to get a great watch. And it's a watch made by young Americans trying to make it good or big and with their American dream here and MAGA America. I have mine, and wear it every time that I don't have this one on because I walk with this one and it has the step meter and all that crap on it. I wear my 2A Watch Company. You'll love yours too. Get one today at 2awatchcompany.com. Use the coupon code CHURCH at checkout. 2awatchcompany.com. Coupon code CHURCH to take 15% off an already discounted, beautiful timepiece. This is not a Timex or a Seiko or a whatever those Kmart brand that you wear for a year and throw away. So check them out today and tell them that I sent you. Use the coupon code CHURCH at checkout. The question has arisen in the Crusader Stadium chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. Apparently, it is the opinion of some, several, that the laws of the Union cannot be enforced unless the governor of the state says so. That's not correct. The idea that, let's just use ICE for a moment. Now, when the Constitution was ratified, no one would have known that an entity named Immigration Customs Enforcement would be needed. No one could have imagined that. They also could not have imagined in that room in Philadelphia in 1787 a Pritzker, a Newsom, a Healy, a Mal Murphy, a Waltz, a Hochul. Couldn't have imagined wretched people who hate like them and who would do anything to avoid a political defeat, including offering up their own citizens as tribute. Let's just deal with it. I'm surprised at some of you people because we've covered this. I told you in November of last year after Trump won, and I was saying it publicly, I was hoping that someone that was in the incoming administration may be looking for, however small or large she accounts, some scholarly advice or writing, in my case, scribbling, on what to do about the illegal alien and 12, 15 million illegal alien criminal trespassers. How are you going to get rid of them? How are you going to capture them? Especially the ones that are gang-banging, basically mercenaries here to do harm. They're not here for jobs. They are here for harm. So what can you do? I told you my solution was, letters of marque and reprisal was one solution. But before you do that, you need the Congress or the president. The president could cite some previous statutory authority and say, I am declaring Tren de Aragua, for example, as an enemy combatant of the United States. I am declaring the Sinaloa cartel as an enemy combatant. I am declaring. Sure enough, on January the 21st, he declared 5 cartels as enemy combatants. This is a review, by the way. I'm not breaking any news. I've already done this monologue 15 ways to Sunday. I'm just going to do it again. The nanosecond he declared those entities as enemy combatants, they became enemies of the United States. When you're dealing with enemies of the United States, then the Article 1, Section 8, Article 2, Section 2 powers of the president in a time of war go into effect. You can say, that's not, you may not like it, but that's the fact, Jack. And again, the framers could not have imagined the scenario under which we are under today. They couldn't have imagined it. They just could not have. That means, and I think that Trump has actually been underusing his authority. If Michelle Wu, or Wee, or whatever the hell her name is harboring members of the Tren de Aragua cartel in Boston, she's giving aid and comfort to enemies. The president has the right to tell the armed forces if he wants to go round up those enemy combatants, and he doesn't need her permission. If there are enemy combatants in Chicago, and I will wager you that there are, he doesn't need Pritzker's permission. He can send whatever troops he deems necessary. Now, he has to give them a mission assignment, imagine, a rule of engagement. You're not there to do anything other than to find the Tren de Araguans. Same deal in Los Angeles, in California, or in New York, or in New York City, or wherever the case may be. He doesn't need their permission. So those of you who are saying that there's no scenario under which you can send troops into a state without the governor's permission, bull, Walter, not true, not correct. Now, I think that you should be very prudent in doing so, which is why I said, there's no argument of whether or not there are enemy combatants in every one of those major cities. He has resisted sending troops in. Instead, he's going like, I'm sending my ICE guys in. There's nothing, stop it. There's nothing you can do. My question is, why do people, those of you that are libertarian-minded, either you trust the guy you elected president if you voted for him, or you don't. Either you think that, well, he's going to do the right thing. It's an enormous amount of power. You know, people that sit out there and fantasize about everyone becoming a Hitler or a Mussolini or whatever, I'm not saying that it can't happen or it won't happen, because history says that it has happened. I don't think that that means that every person that ever assumes authority becomes one of them. I also don't assume that everyone that ever becomes a CEO becomes a really bad one. He has the authority he can abuse his authority, he can make terrible things happen, or she can. or they can do good things. To always assume that everything is rotten and that no one can be trusted, and therefore everything, no, we can't do that because we don't trust. Well, then you're not going to have a civilization. So build your moat and go and cope. That really is your alternative. Drop out of the society that the rest of us live in, build your moat, and go and cope. Now, again, I am trying to be very detailed here and in saying these are very extraordinary circumstances. This does not mean that you wake up. Here, you want to see an abuse of the kind of power I'm talking about? Look what Franklin Delano Obama Roosevelt did. He confiscated gold. He woke up in the mornings and asked for his morning coffee brought to him because he couldn't walk to get it because he was crippled. That's another lie. And then he would pick the newspapers up and he'd go, you know what? I don't like the way gold did yesterday. I'm going to lower the price $2 an ounce. And people go, you can't do that. And he goes, yes, I can. And he would do it. Or he'd wake up the next morning and he would raise the price of gold $1, whatever the case may be. If you want to see presidential abuse of presidential power, look at Roosevelt. You want to see abuse of presidential power? Look at Obama. By the way, Fast and Furious, was it ever fully investigated? Did the Obama administration do everything that you guys are saying that Trump can't do? And I don't think that Trump's actually trying to do. It put American lives at risk. That's what Obama did. And by the way, this idea here that we're going to send FBI agents out into the field to go and trap American citizens and tell them to kill, bomb, and maim, that wasn't Trump's idea. That happened during the Clinton administration. May have happened before. So is there, I'm answering the question. Somebody said in the chat room, I'm not going to mention any names. I tried not to even look at the name. I can't go in there without a governor's approval. Bull. And if they really just want to do it, then they won't even do that. They won't even make a legal appeal. He would just do it. He would have his guys just make something up. Like George W. Bush got John Yoo to make up an excuse for how he could exercise authority and start a war in Iraq in 2003. Look it up. You want an abuse of power? There's one for you, an egregious one that costs I was thinking trillions of dollars and thousands of lives, and how God knows how many blown limbs off. Okay. I can't have the Clinton News Network on over there on that TV monitor because I'll wind up screaming at it all day long, and it's very distracting. So I leave Fox News on. It is the best alternative. It's still awful, awful propaganda. It's horrible. What? It's the least offensive. Let me tell you something that I see on Fox News every day, and I think to myself, does anyone that has anything to do with this, do you not have an ethical conscience, and does this not bother you? So now when I say this, there's no way I can win this argument. No way I can win this argument. So it doesn't matter how I say it, but someone's going to go, oh, you, that's it, I quit, I'm out. Okay, fine. But it needs to be said. How can you have a television network that has breathlessly, with bated, excited breath, promoted every neocon, sick, twisted war fantasy of the last 30 years, see many of them brought to fruition where America's youths, our blood and treasure was sent overseas to places like Afghanistan and places like Iraq where we had no business being, where there were no weapons of mass destruction in the one instance, or wherever they were sent to go have their legs blown off or their arms blown off or the half of the side of their head blown off or whatever the horrid injuries those brave young men, and in some instances women, endured. You cottoned that. You lobbied for it. You made propaganda for it. You defended it. You still defend it today. You want it to happen again. And now watch the rotation of advertisements on Fox News. This is sick. If you count the ads, the number one ad that I see on Fox News is tunnels to towers. Now, again, I can't win the argument. Someone's going to get angry. I'm not talking about the tunnels to towers people. I'm talking about the news networks that made possible all these brave American lads having their legs blown off, their lives ruined and turned upside down. That necessitates a tunnel. The price of defending freedom that's what the price is, KingDude. Not on a continent that is surrounded by two oceans. The only way they're coming here is if we let them in. There's an ocean on the left and an ocean on the right. Use it. We have to be engaged. Okay, that's the neocon in you talking. The other one is not the tunnels to tower one. The other one is like the wounded war hero. It's not the wounded war hero. Let me like a majority of your advertisement. So you want your listeners and your viewers to now pay for the war that you encourage, and you want them, even though they've been taxed for this, and their children are in debt up their eyeballs to fund the debt, you want them to now subsidize and pay for the maiming those brave men, and in some instances, those women suffered. There are so many ethical breaches there that I don't. If someone doesn't get that, I don't know what to tell you. But I see this and I go like, this is just wrong. It's like Fonzie wrong. It's so bad. So in any event.
I think there's a difference between you saying sending in troops for illegals versus what our listeners are thinking.
I don't think, okay, can you say, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
I'm thinking you're talking about POTUS having the authority to send in people, whether it be ICE or whatever, to apprehend illegals, right?
Yes.
People that have been put on the list or whatever.
Yes.
I think our listeners are asking, are making the point, well, you have to only go after those illegals. You can't just send in people in any state without the governor's permission. So, like, POTUS can't just send somebody into Chicago just to fight crime.
He can't send people into Mayberry.
That's the problem. That's the disconnect between you two.
Well, no, I understand that there is a difference. That's why I read you Article 4, Section 4, the colon that's there, and that they never considered that there would be a Pritzker or a Newsom. To your question about the guarantee of a Republican form of government and against invasion, foreign or domestic, whatever the executive thereof. Well, that's the founders thinking that you're going to have responsible executives. What if you have partisan executives that aren't responsible? There's no responsible case for saying, yeah, we could use a little extra help here. As a matter of fact, play Brandon Johnson. You need to give me my $463 million. Okay, tell you what. I'll make you a trade. I'll give you $463 million worth of National Guard troops. $468 million, number 9. I'll make you a deal. You want 1,465? I'll give you 1,465. And when the job's done, I'm taking them back.
So my question is, why did Trump cut $468 million from ATF's budget in his nasty signature bill? Why did he cut funding for the agency responsible for getting guns off our streets by almost 30%?
Stop the tape for just a second. Just hold on. Wait a minute. Those are federal troops. Bureau of ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It's not an Illinois state agency. It's not a City of Chicago agency. That is a federal agency with federal armed marshals or operatives, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, but Chicago doesn't pay for them.
Chicago doesn't pay for them. The federales pay for them. And by the way, if you want to be free and independent and all that, why do you need ATF to come in and get guns off your street? Why don't you do it? His argument, this guy is the most illogical. And then he goes, play the rest of it. Oh, people need to hear this. You need to restore. That's federal.
30%. Why did he cut 1,000 465 positions from an agency that is so critical to reducing gun violence.
Stop the digital media file. ATF has never stopped a single unitary act of gun violence. Not one. They've stopped this many.
0.0.
Pretty much the only thing ATF has ever stopped is people like me from going to purchase a gun and having to go through a background check that apparently every nutcase in the world passes with flying colors. They haven't prevented or stopped anyone. But you see, he's arguing here, give me the federal resources. I want my money. Give me the money. Then he goes on to drone on endlessly. He played digital media file number 10. Now let's play the blame game. You people in Indiana, Mississippi, and Louisiana, this is all your fault.
In the state of Illinois, these guns come from red states. They are coming from Indiana. They are coming from Mississippi. They are coming from Louisiana. And that is the harsh reality, whether Republicans like it or not. Occupying our city will do nothing to solve this problem.
Okay, this guy is NVTS nuts. So it would be okay if the citizens of Chicago were being killed by guns that were manufactured in the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts, where Smith & Wesson is, or I think that's where Smith & Wesson is. So if the guns were made in blue states and transported here, we're fine with the killing. We just don't want guns from red states. Well, I have a question. We don't make any firearms in Louisiana that I am aware of, unless Bubba out there, or unless Thibodeau and Boudreaux have figured out how to smelt iron ore and make weapons in McElhenney Island where they make Tabasco. You see how you just shift the blame? None of this is my fault. None of this is the city's fault. None of this is the state's fault. These are red states who are interfering in our precious and safe Chicago. So it's red states putting guns into the hands. So are you saying that citizens from Louisiana, Indiana, and Mississippi are going to Illinois and Chicago, and they're the ones that are killing people on your streets? Even though when these people are apprehended, they're all of them either illegal alien criminal trespassers or they're citizens of Chicago. Folks, it's NVTS nuts.
In a world more and more infiltrated with fake news, AI-generated slop hola, isn't it great knowing that Crusade Channel News is still researched, written, and performed by actual humans?
Hey, what are you doing in here?
Oh no. Get your hands off of me. You chipped my chip.
Boys, break it up. Jeez. Catch Crusade Channel News weekday mornings on the Crusade Channel. Live talk and podcast radio the way it should be.
No AI was harmed in the making of this radio content. We hope to next time.
Hello, Crusaders. I'm Janet Huxley at the Crusade Channel News Desk with your Crusade Crucials for Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2025. This report is brought to you by the 2ALibertyWatchCompany.com. Watches that express your love of the Second Amendment, American liberty, and President Trump, all beautifully crafted and endorsed by Mike Church. Shop their stylish line of watches today at 2AWatchCompany.com. The market report, all three major indexes slipped again. The Dow was down 0.55%. The S&P was down 0.69%. NASDAQ had fallen 1.15% at last close. Today in National Day calendar news is U.S. Bowling League Day. Primarily an outdoor sport until around 1840, the game was called nine pins, was popular with gamblers. Well, to snuff out all the gambling, the state of Connecticut banned the game in 1841. As a result, indoor lane owners added one pin to their alleys to circumvent the law. Clubs tried organizing and creating set rules, but it wasn't until 1895 when the American Bowling Congress came together at Beethoven Hall in New York City. It's also National Welsh Rarebit Day. Our quote of the day, actions speak louder than words. Let your words teach and your actions speak. St. Anthony of Padua. And our saint of the day is St. Pius X. You're listening to Crusade Channel News.
This is a pixel. I'm Groot. Now, if you put a couple of million of these guys together, you can make a sentence on an LED screen. Put a couple of billion of them together, and you can make a whole page. Put 360 billion of them, and you got Chesterton's book, Orthodoxy. But it doesn't smell like a book, and it burns teeny little holes in your cornea. So is the pixel really your friend? I'm Groot. No, but the Founders Trading Post is your friend, and we have actual books with actual smelly pages. Plus, our little bookstore has everything you'd expect. I'm Groot. Yes, Groot, to the gourmet coffee, but no to the One Tree Hill sappy guitar music.
Pick up a copy of G.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy, plus many other Chesterton titles at shop.mikechurch.com. While Trump continues to try and make America great again
by doing Mortal Kombat with the Clinton, Comey, and Clapper crime families.
You forgot the...
Nope, did not. And the King of Russia treason, the Obama father.
Well, we'll always be there for you with the best live coverage and commentary in media on the Crusade Channel, our app, and always on CrusadeChannel.com. Live talk and podcast radio
the way it should be.
Mark? Ow! So, Madman Monkami wants to raise the minimum wage to $30 in New York City. Why stop at $30? $30 sounds like an arbitrary amount. Let me just pick a color revolution number. 28. Oh, no, I don't like 28. 31. I don't like 31. Let's make it an even 30. There's no economic calculus here. And by the way, Fox News, FAUX, fake Fox News, Newsmax, and all the rest of them, you don't need an economist to tell you what's going to happen. People in business like me are going to close. Or they're going to leave. One of the two. If you want to pay $16, $20 for a 6-inch sub at Subway at current wages, oh, don't worry, though, we raised the minimum wage, so everyone's making at least $40 this. You know the amazing thing to me? I guess human beings are just meant to be stupid and objects of con artists. There is nothing in this madman mom commies arguments that hasn't already been made. It is not like high minimum wage is a new idea. Here's a trivia question. Pop quiz, hotshot. What state in the union leads the civilized world in teen unemployment? Guess. What state in the union leads the world in teen unemployment? Your time starts now, Roger. Best of luck.
What state in the union leads the world in teen unemployment? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Time's up. Let's go to our first contestant. Ooh, he guessed wrong. California. Shocking. It's not even close. The teenage unemployment rate in California, I'm going to pull a Maggie and I'm going to round up here, is 23%. 23%. So why do I bring this up? What state has the highest minimum wage? You don't need an expert to figure this one out. You don't need to Google it. California. Which state just raised its minimum wage? California. So Utes, or the people that would hire Utes, are going like, screw it. If I can't find a robot to do this, I'll just close the doors. And by the by, if you're going to pay that kind of wage, if you're going to make me pay someone what is a journeyman's wage as a welder, $30 an hour, well, then I'm not hiring some punk off the street. You better come in here, dude. You better have 15 years experience to get the $30. It's so stupid. It is almost as though it is literally a Rorschach or a litmus test. Anyone that goes along with this, you don't get on the island. You get voted off the island. Play digital media. Okay, Joni Ernst is out. She's not going to seek re-election, and it's Iowa, right? She opposed Hegseth as secretary and all that stuff. After a tremendous amount of parent reflection, I will not be seeking re-election in 2026. It was not an easy decision. I love my state and my country. So Nadler's out. Now Ernst is out. There's a couple other people that are probably going to drop out here to make room for the new kids on the block. I think really what is ultimately happening here, and it will be happening in small polities, it should happen the most, is the political class should not be the political class in power any longer. Andrew Willard Jones. I want to hear, when Magdalene comes on, we'll play Janine Pirro. Maggie, you said that Beetlejuice looks even worse than Beetlejuice looked.
It looks so bad.
Well, that's impossible.
Wait, where is she?
At number 15. Lori Lightfeather. Chicago just keeps electing these geniuses.
She looks so bad.
Oh, I have to see. I want to see. Oh, show me.
To Chicago, he's going to be in court, and he's going to be sued by the state. He's going to be sued by the city, and I believe that there will be private interests that also sue him. This is not about violent crime, and I don't think we should pretend that this manufactured crisis and his attempt to provoke people in Chicago is legitimate exercise of power. It is not.
Democracy is over. If you still have people like that lunatic hanging around, why does she have... Can I ask a question? Why does she have male pattern baldness? That is male pattern baldness. She's lost all of her hair here like she's a dude. Is she related to Mike Obama?
And at this point, because she is balding so bad in the front, you don't poof what remaining hair you have that high. Because then it just makes it more obvious that you have half a head of hair.
I mean, even Don King knew that.
Thank you.
By the way, Don King was a great American. You know that he was, when he was alive, Don King, he and Trump were like buddies, right? That... Andrew Willard Jones has a piece, and I quoted it today in today's newsletter, which you should all have signed up for. Go to crusadechannel.com /Mike, I think. You get the daily church doctrine just chock full of. It has a lot of the sound bites, or has at least 4 sound bites from the show every day. You don't have to go looking for them. The links are there. What I had to say about them, my analyses. It has a quote of the day. Today's quote of the day is from Andrew Willard Jones. And it's a very lengthy piece. I'm pretty sure that they have published this one before. Yeah, this is from 2019. So the book that came out was called Before Church and State. And then he begins with a statement about kind of where we are with these democracies that we're surrounded with and how things used to be. I don't think it's very difficult for some. By the way, this just in, tomorrow's Thursday Night Throwdown is war movies. Thursday Night Throwdown tomorrow night is war movies. It is not possible for a modern man to imagine or to even relate to medieval man and the kind of life that he led and what we would call today the government that he lived under. You can't imagine it. It's not possible. Because they didn't, there was nothing that you could compare what you and I think is normal. It's not normal. It is a grand experiment that most people should admit has failed. I mean, we gave it the old college try, but it's failed. Andrew Willard Jones. So he wrote this book called Before Church and State. The first paragraph in the piece is this. It pretty much says everything you need to say. I contend that the Middle Ages were neither religious nor secular because the religions and the secular are 2 features of a single construction, the modern Western social architecture of church and state, private and public. The societies of the Middle Ages had a different architecture based on different assumptions and different concepts, ultimately on a different vision of the cosmos. It's right, Maggie, it is a very profound point. You didn't think about the Duke down the road as being the state, because he did not have that kind of authority. You did not, even though Mel Gibson kind of portrayed Longchamps in Braveheart as his super authority that ruled everything, he didn't have that kind of authority. All the dukes, all the earls, all the nobles, the nobility could at any time revolted against the king, and they did it. There were kings that were killed because they chose wrongly. You know, everyone thinks that Henry VIII, ruling as he did in England, that's the model. That's not the model. Henry VIII is an aberration. He wasn't the model. The model was the king would send a note or would ask the papal legate, hey man, what do you think about this? And the papal legate was, well, let me ask the Holy Father. And the Holy Father, and I'm talking this wasn't a daily thing. So you people out there that aren't Catholic going, you see, that's why. No, I'm talking like this might have happened once every 3 years. A question like that would be sent, and the papal legate would go like, well, here's what I would say. Here's what canon law, well, they wouldn't even call it canon law. They didn't have canon law until 1912. They would have said, well, the church law says this, but let me ask, I'll send a letter, or I'll go and ask the Holy Father, and I'll come back. This happened throughout all of Christendom. This is why the Vatican and the Holy Father, the Pope, always retain what we call a Secretary of State of some sort. Now, I know this is difficult. People, I'm not placing myself under the yoke of the harlot of Babylon. Yeah, you go on ahead and say something stupid like that. Every Christian alive, even after Luther, was under the authority of Rome at some level. Unless they were part of the schism. That's just the fact. Now, obviously, that has been dissolved. That is no longer the case. I think that you should wish for it to be the case again. Yeah, but then we'd get a Pope. No, you wouldn't get a Pope Francis. You might get a bad Pope, a Borgia, or something like that, because criminality and sin does enter the church all the way from the first Pope all the way till today. This is true. But the point that Willard Jones makes is you can't imagine what it was like, which is why I was saying the other day to Magdalene, and I don't think she was completely getting it. I don't think most people got it. About the judges. There's going to be a point in time where people are going to go, no. No, Your Honor, in your black robe, try and enforce your edict. We're not taking the statute down. We're not doing this. We're not going to do that. Who the hell do you think you are? This day is coming. The more people that return to practicing and learning about sacred tradition, and it's not because it's an obeisance you have to. You're not goose stepping in lockstep for Jesus. You people that say that are just stupid. That's just stupid. You know nothing about history, and you certainly know nothing about the faith. All you're doing is acknowledging that there is 4 marks of the church: one, holy, Catholic, apostolic. That's all. You're acknowledging it. It's not the church's law, though. This is where people go off the rails. The church didn't make this stuff up. It gets all of it from the ultimate authority, from God, from Christ. Somebody was saying this on Twitter yesterday very beautifully about, I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't my buddy Nick Rizzuto, but somebody was saying this, that, it was, I know who it was. It was, oh gosh, what's his name? We had him on the show as a guest one time. It'll come to me in a moment. It doesn't matter. I could have said it. It's like when the authority of a pope is to command Christians or remind them that there is a teaching that is above you. You aren't me. You're not the pope. The Holy Ghost and the council will help to elect me, but all I am here to do is to see to it that the traditions and the dogmas of the church are carried out according to Christ's will. That's basically it. The Pope does this, the Pope does that. No, he doesn't. No. Look, we have a stream of information on the Holy Father that people never had before. And they probably didn't even know when encyclicals came out in Christendom. Joshua Charles Duffender, that's right. Thank you very much. So if you're looking to think outside of the box when it comes to your politics, well, then you don't want politics. Politics is what's screwing everything up. By the way, Brother Andre Marie brought this up a couple weeks ago when he said the Roman Imperium ended, and what took its place? The Christian Imperium. What did the Christian Imperium say? It said the Roman Imperium or the Roman system got it wrong. Now, it was functioning, and it did survive for a while, and there was sense of some order, and the Roman Empire did expand, true story, but at the end, there was nothing to hold it together. Just like there's nothing to hold. Somebody was in the chat room earlier carping about what Constitution are you jerks talking about? The Constitution of 1787 or the one of 1912 or the one of last week? Constitution is the best attempt at an ersatz authority like the church, like Christ's church once wielded. It's the best attempt. It's not perfect, and that's why you get what you have today. Just if you read this, right, it's a very lengthy article, The Imaginative Conservative. To us moderns, the secular is fundamental, even when religion is considered a universal sociological category. We almost always first translate it into something secular, such as its function. It synthesizes diverse perspectives and experiences. It knits people together. It makes the world coherent. It assuages the fear of death. It provides legitimacy for power. It constructs social roles and so on. In this way, we are perhaps willing to accept that every society has a religion, but only if we first reduce religion to yet another aspect of the fundamental secular, to yet another ideology or worldview. In such an approach, religion is a category that functions within the secular. Through this framework, we recognize that the societies of the Middle Ages were religious. But we do so because we recognize in the Middle Ages characteristics that we, from the vantage point of the fundamental secular, now call religious. When we say that the Middle Ages were religious, we mean something similar, I think, to when we say that a particular person is religious. He goes to church, he prays, he talks about God, and so on. Religion is important in his life. It might even be the most important thing in his life, having influence in everything that he does. But it could go away. He could abandon his religion and become secular, and he would still be him. And this is so because the secular is always actually there. It is the there where religion functions. In this way, even the most religious person does a great deal that we coherently call secular. He goes to work, he votes, he mows his lawn, etc. We view the Middle Ages in a similar manner and activities of our secular world that we recognize in the behavior of the religious people of the Middle Ages. We deem to have always really been secular, even if they mentioned God when they did them. The people of the Middle Ages could have cultivated the land, they could have elected kings, they could have administered justice, and so ultimately secular. On the other hand, things that we recognize in the past and now think of as being religious and so optional to our secular society, we deem to have always belonged to the religious sphere. The scripture, liturgy, prayer, sacraments, the clergy. The current book is a challenge of this conception. Okay, I'm going to leave there because I haven't read the whole book, but I read enough, and I've read Jeb Smith's Missy Monarchy. Let me give you a quick 30,000-foot summary. Here's what he's saying. He's saying it because we moderns, in the same way today's race hucksters can look back on 100 years ago like, you subjugated us, you created slavery, you did this, the 1619 Project, for example. They take what their modern understanding of something is and they apply it to the way someone acted 200 years ago. So that you can try and understand it today. Well, you can't understand it through that lens because they did it 200 years ago. It wasn't done today. They didn't have this explanation or this lack of enforcement or whatever the case may be. The same way, you look back on Christendom or the ages of faith or the 13th or the 12th or the 14th or the 15th or the 16th century when things started to go to hell. You look back at it through the lens of today. They didn't think like that. There was no law and order in the manner in which you think that it has to happen today. Robin Hood. What is the Sheriff of Nottingham's primary role? Even in the parody movies, Robin Hood Men in Tights. What does he primarily do? He's not running around arresting bad guys. He's not patrolling the streets with a billy club. He doesn't have not a patrol car, a patrol horse. What's his primary duty? Tax collector. So we've been sold this Billy Good. The sheriff, what did he do? He was primarily a tax collector. And of course, Chaucer, or whoever made that up, and inserted it because for moderns, that makes sense. We've interpreted it like that. But what we think sheriff, we think of law enforcement. What they didn't have that kind of law enforcement because everyone knew what the law was. There was no nuance. You knew that the church taught that usury was illegal. There were no banksters. They couldn't make loans. It was illegal. See, Spanish Inquisition, if you want to call it that. You didn't have adultery on your wife because adultery was illegal. It wasn't just immoral, it was illegal. Listen to Sister Philomena's saint of the day yesterday from Saint Stephen of Hungary. If you listen to it on radio, you only got the 2-minute long version. Her version is 6 minutes long. You have to get it on the website because the unedited version is always posted every day at crusadechannel.com. Saint of the day. Thanks to the slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, by the way. Sister's doing a fantastic, unbelievable job. Listen to everything. What does she say about St. Stephen? He enforced laws against... He said, if I find out you didn't go to Mass this Sunday, I'm going to send a Duke's guy to your house, and I'm going to have you tried. I'm going to bring you up on charges. You can't do that in my kingdom. You have to go. It's a day of obligation, and we enforce it. Now, that's a very extreme circumstance. They didn't have law and order the way you think of it today, and it was a lot simpler and more peaceful. They kept all of their money. No, they didn't. The sheriff of Nottingham came. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. In the feudal system, there may have been a deal that was made twixt the guy that was on the land and the guy that owned the land. Like, hey, man, I'm going to let you have this land. And by the way, they couldn't take the land away from once the deal was made. In exchange for that, I'm going to need like 15% of the wheat. I'm going to need 10% of the pigs that you raise. And, throw in 1/4 of the apples that you pick. That's the arrangement. There was no tax. No one was sitting around counting shekels waiting for the sheriff of Nottingham to come by. This has all been manufactured in people's minds to make today seem normal when compared to history. That's what this piece today that they reposted at the Imaginative Conservative. I think it's a great time to revisit that. For all of you who go, the Constitution says that, the Constitution says that. What do moral people who live in a nearby kingdom, who know that people in another kingdom are being slaughtered by Vikings who have taken over the streets, do they just stand by and go like, whoa, the Constitution says we can't do anything about it? Is this where you want to be when Jesus comes back? Because I don't think it's a very good argument. Well, they didn't ask you to come in. Here's a question. Do the people whose children are actually being murdered every day and every weekend in Chicago, do they want this to continue? Do they have a voice? Or is the guy that is supposedly elected mayor, does he get the last word? And is that a good thing? I don't think it is. Let me go to the Dude Maker hotline here for our political affairs contributor, Magdalene Rose. First of all, we have to talk about this. Today, Magdalene, there's going to be a hearing or going to be a press release or a press conference. Thomas Massie is going to introduce 10 witnesses to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's treachery or whatever it was that they were doing. Representative, there's a discharge position on the floor of the House of Representatives. I don't know how many sponsors. I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that she is going to co-sponsor. She is a co-sponsor of it. Don't know if we're actually going to be able to get the presser, but if we can, we'll broadcast it. Is this Congress caving to the demands of MAGA, or is it just another distraction?
I think it's another distraction. I very much doubt that there's going to be anything really powerful to come from it. And I think Congress in general has been really ineffective lately. I mean, they're just not making news in a positive way. So I very much doubt we're going to get nothing from it. And I saw Nancy Mace, who has become very insufferable in the House, sort of walking away in tears after witnessing things. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence that anything's in it because Nancy Mace cries about everything.
Isn't Nancy Mace supposedly running for governor?
Yeah, she is in South Carolina. Yeah, I believe it's South Carolina. And she's just always in crisis. And I think that she has tried very hard to make herself the girl boss of the Republican Party, and it hasn't worked.
Well, she comes on the heels of the first ever female governor of South Carolina, and that was no nonsense Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley actually didn't care what people thought about her, as is evidenced by her ridiculous run against Trump all the way up until May of 2024. Nancy Mace is no Nikki Haley.
No, she's not. And the thing about Nancy Mace is that she tries really hard to be like digestible to the left-wing area, and I don't know why. She's in a solidly Republican state. She doesn't need to appeal to the middle, and yet she tries this over and over again. And she's just somebody who I cringe at when I see their posts.
I agree with you. Well, no, because she carries that selfie stick around with her. Either that, or she has a staffer that's filming her all the time as she's walking through the halls of Congress and pronouncing this and pronouncing that. And I go like, and my first thought to myself is, okay, so you're seeking a national stage, but you serve a district in South Carolina. Why don't you talk to them? Don't address me. I don't care what you think. Why don't you care or address directly what the people of her district? You know, I met her at a Ron Paul Liberty PAC after the Friday conference event in 2014. You'd like this story because our mutual friend, what's his Cliff Maloney. Cliff Maloney, a very young Cliff Maloney spoke that day. I spoke that day. A very young Thomas Massey spoke that day. Nancy Mace did not speak that day, but she was there in the entourage with Congressman Paul. And she, someone with Paul, because I was tight with with everyone who was with Ron, Congressman Paul at the time. I was introduced to her. And she was, I guess she was in her early 20s then. She was freshly a graduate of the Citadel. I mean, maybe that was, 6 years ago or so, whenever it was. And I said, oh, Citadel. So you went after Shannon Faulkner, who was the first, et cetera, et cetera. And she said, you know what her first thing to do that she did was she ran for the Senate. She wanted, I want to say she ran against Lindsey Graham at the time. In any event, it was years later that she would ultimately settle upon, I'm going to be a member of Congress. Being the executive of a state is being Trump. If you're going to be a good governor, you have to be a good executive. Nancy Mace is not executive material. I don't even know that she's representative material. And again, I think this is another example of why women shouldn't be in politics is Nancy Mace.
Well, and the other thing with Nancy Mace is that she constantly tries to talk about, like, how she's overcome all these things and everything. And I will tell you that if you Google, like, the most cringeworthy Republicans, she consistently comes up number one. And it's really, like...
Is there such a ranking? Wait a minute. We have cringeworthy Republican power rankings.
There was for a while on Twitter. And the problem I have is that all the wounds are self-inflicted. Like, nobody has forced her to do any of this. And for a while, she was like the one fighting for sex trafficking victims, and then she was the one who was assaulted. And it's just really weird, and I don't want her to be the governor of South Carolina because I don't want to see her in the news that much. I just don't.
Well, B. Hoffman in the chat room says we have three representative candidates for McMaster's replacement, including Nancy Mace, the Citadel disgrace. I think that the state of South Carolina needs a guy. You don't need a Nikki Haley for sure. You certainly don't need the emotional basket case that is Nancy Mace. Oh, good Lord. I would be so shocked. Do they have an open primary in South Carolina, or is it a closed Republican primary? I'd be if it's a closed primary, I would be shocked if there's a runoff and she makes it to the runoff. Some people are just good candidates and others aren't good candidates. And I don't think that Nancy Mace is a very good candidate. The good people of South Carolina ought to look at her and go like, dude, you're the one that cemented what Shannon Faulkner did to our beloved Citadel witch. Get out. Shut up. I don't want to hear from you. You'd think that there'd be a hangover from that, and apparently in her district there is not. So.
No, there isn't, but I've read actually several pieces by people who were there with her at the same time because she talks about it. So it's fair game for someone else to comment on their experience in it. And they talk about how twisted she is. Like, even as a really young woman, she was extremely twisted about making her father proud. It was all she talked about. They felt like she wasn't a whole person. So, like, the unstableness that we see in Nancy Mace has been there for a very long time.
They have open primaries. So that means winner take all. It doesn't matter what party you're with. I don't know then in a great southern state like South Carolina if a Democrat has any shot whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I don't think Democrats have a shot anywhere. I don't think they have a shot. The only way that they have a shot is if they rig an election like they did for the Supreme Court justice in Alabama. That's because they can still rig and they can still cheat until Trump gets his way and the Constitution gets his way and mail-in balloting across the United States is done away with. That will be the death knell for the modern Democrat Party, because without the ability to cheat at obscene levels, we're talking 15 to 25% of fake ballots. Without the ability to cheat like that, they pretty much don't win anywhere outside of a major city where they can buy it.
No, they don't. And I think that's sort of one of the talking points this time. I'm seeing a lot of people concerned about Pennsylvania and saying the Democrats are gaining there. But if you look at the national voting registration across the country, Democrats are down so significantly, specifically in the Sun Belt, that for them to recoup would take a miracle. What they're dealing with in Nevada alone 5 years ago would have been a catastrophe for them now, and now it's normalized.
Maggie, play digital media file. Here's a couple of good. Play Judge Jeanine. Well, you know what? Don't play Judge Jeanine, but back up two more. Can you play digital media file for number 11? Because I want to talk about this lunatic for just a minute. 11 is Waltz. All right. Okay. All right. It's a numerical process.
Get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime. Just so you know, there will be news.
He was joking or not joking about there may be news. In other words, maybe we're going to wake up one morning when we're doom scrolling and find out that the doom is over and Trump is dead. What the hell is wrong? You know, I don't understand. I really don't. And I say this with all sincerity. This guy is literally, he is Bozo the Clown without the big shoes, the red wig, and the nose. I don't understand how it is that this cacophony, this gang, it's not even a good gang. It's an insult to gangs to call it a gang. This assemblage of losers, weirdos, wackos, and people that just wish the worst upon their fellow human beings of how they have any political power or any sway over anyone's lives. That guy is certifiably nuts. You know, in his state, no one, the crime of who murdered supposedly his friend, Melissa Hartman, and her husband, Vance Belter, where did that investigation go? There are 2 dead children in your state, Governor, and you're joking about the President of the United States? Was you waking up one morning and finding the President dead? What are you doing about the lunatics, the transgender wackos that apparently have taken up residence in your state? This guy is a cold, cruel joke on civilization itself.
Well, and that's kind of why she chose him as her running mate originally. And I think Tim Walz has always been a really weird person. And she said she wanted him to connect with, Kamala Harris said she wanted him to connect with suburban white men. They have nothing in common with this
man.
They have nothing in common with this man. Just because Tim Walz may have lived in suburbia and is a white man does not make him a suburban white man. And this is something Democrats don't grasp. Those are not the same things. And until they do, they're going to continue bringing out like Tim Kaine and Tim Walz to run these men who have no traction, and then they get nothing, and then they're frustrated with them.
Am I reading this headline right that the grand jury or whatever that's meeting over the Roosh nutbag are not going to indict him? What? That headline cannot be correct. That cannot be correct. Here's another one. All right. Waltz, lunatic. By the way, there's so much evil that is going on in the state of Minnesota, politically speaking. It's almost as though, okay, you have a city, a major city that's basically been taken over and is being run by Muslims. You have an attorney general that is an avowed member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The attorney general, the chief law enforcement officer of the state, is I don't know if he's avowed, but he is said to be a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. You have a governor who is, I think, certifiably insane. You have a policy that coddles to the mentally deranged who are now actually killing children in your state and going into Catholic churches and shooting them up. You have a dead member, the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Minnesota, and her husband are dead, murdered in their own home. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's sane, or that is a normal person who wants to or is trying to do anything about any of it, or even cares about it. It's so strange. It's like, I don't even think a dystopian novel could create people like this. I'd rather be governed by President Snow in the Hunger Games novels than these lunatics.
Well, I think that, a lot of people feel that way. And it's not just these types of people. I mean, there's great instability amongst people who will not accept crime or danger as being a problem across the world. I mean, for example, right now in Germany, are you aware that there is a investigation because the Alternative for Germany party, which is the conservative one, their candidates keep ending up dead and no one can explain why.
Yep.
So we're dealing with, liberal craziness across the board. I mean, 7 of them are dead now. And these are young people, healthy people, doesn't matter. So to me, I think that across the board, as conservatives amass power, the left gets desperate and sloppy. So where they would have probably only killed one person in a decade or whatever, they'll wipe out whole groups now because they're really in fear.
Yeah.
So the grand jury refusal was for Nathalie Rose Jones, who was arrested on August 16th, and she had made death threats to the president. So the grand jury refused to indict her.
Right, and this is a rebuke to Trump's law enforcement efforts in D.C.
No, it's not.
Why do the Democrats think that being on the side of people being murdered in urban centers is a winning political message? Winning political hell, if you keep it up, you're not going to have very many people to vote for you or to elect you because they're all going to be dead. So I don't understand. They seem obsessed with death. Okay, it is extraordinarily rare for a grand jury to refuse to return an indictment, but that has happened in other cases. Mikey, don't you have Jeanine Pirro on this?
Not on this. No.
Well, you have her reacting to the lunatic that is Jamie Raskin, yes, which I've told you is the most certifiably stupid man in the history of the House of Representatives, and that's saying a lot because there have been a lot of stupid people before Raskin.
She says the same thing.
Yeah, here.
So we're saying, one, there's no emergency. Second, even if there'd been an emergency, there's no power that the president has within the statute to take over the police department. But this is a bunch of performative political actions that are designed for completely PR purposes.
He says it's all performative. To him, you say what?
I say, number one, he doesn't understand the law, which is amazing given that the guy is actually in Congress writing laws. And I say, number two, since when does crime become a partisan issue? And who is it who is entitled to say crime is low enough and let's not bother? Who among us is willing to say, I'm willing to have my child shot tonight in Chicago or next weekend when there were 54 people shot, 8 of them killed in Chicago, and you've got these Democrats running around and saying, well, crime is down, we don't have to worry about it. That's absurd. And these people are not doing their job. Their job is to protect the law-abiding citizens in this country. And the idea that sending the National Guard around is not sustainable because it costs costs too much? That's pretty incredible coming from Democrats. Who, by the way, is willing to put a cost on the life of a child who was killed by a bullet? In the last year and a half in Washington, D.C., where I am now, I've got 45 African-American teens. One of them, a 3-year-old and one a 5-year-old, in addition to the teens, all killed with gunfire. Nobody cares about them. Nobody talks about them. The clearance rate is 29%. What does that mean? That means that 70% of the criminals who shot them with guns are out there. The murderers are out there with their guns. So anytime a Democrat wants to say it costs too much money, crime is low enough, the president doesn't have the power, is wrong. President Trump is taking this city and turning it into the city on the hill. Right now, it's upside down, because we are the 4th largest homicide, had the 4th highest homicide rate in the nation 2 years ago, actually in 2024. So let's stop all this namby-pambying. And this guy, Pritzker, he should be ashamed of himself to say that 54 shootings that's not enough to bring in extra law enforcement. That is simply a denial of your obligation. It is a rejection of your oath to protect the people.
Well, no, he didn't take an oath to protect people, Magdalene. And, of course, Judge Jeanine, who sat as a district attorney and a presiding judge in the mean streets of Manhattan for decades, she had a reputation. You know, you go watch any of those early 48-hour shows or 2020 shows where they're profiling murder capitals and stuff. They brought a very young... Maggie, what was the case we were watching when a very young Janine Pirro was one of the expert...
It was the Jinx.
The Jinx. What was the Jinx?
That guy, the super rich guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the wacko, they think, dismembered his girlfriend or whatever, or his wife. His
neighbor.
His neighbor in the bathtub. They would feature a very young Judge Jeanine because, you know, she was kind of like a female version of Judge Roy Bean. She was just a hanging judge. She threw the book at him. It's interesting to me that Judge Jeanine is popular because of the law, because of the role she played and the success she had in enforcing the laws and making the mean streets of Manhattan less mean. Why is Rudy Giuliani? Why did Rudy Giuliani run for president twice, 2008, 2012? No, 2012, 2016. Why did he do it? Why was he popular? Because he was the guy that was a former DA in New York City that was elected mayor to clean up what the Democrats had destroyed, what Mayor Dinkins had destroyed, and to fix New York City and to turn it back into a reasonably clean place where law and order kind of reign, where the NYPD was respected, and crime went down precipitously. And then Bloomberg comes in, you know, pretty much just does what Giuliani does. My point being, the reason that they were popular is because they were seen as people that made people safer. They enforced laws. They didn't go out and write any. They just enforced what was already there, and people rewarded them with fame and fortune and popularity as a result of it. Why is Fat Boy Pumpkinhead Pritzker going to be rewarded? Why is Brandon Johnson going to be rewarded for what's happening in Illinois? 54 people shot in a weekend is just another day at the park in Chicago? Nuts.
Well, it is completely nuts. And I think that Democrats are at a place now where they have to defend insanity and violence at such a high level, because if they don't, then they show that they're willing to work as Republicans, which is the very biggest sin at this point. But what I don't really get is that, like, there's not a particular area of the left-wing base keeping people from interacting with Republicans right now. We've had points in time where if you worked with a Republican, your political career was over. I think it's kind of the opposite now. You're more likely to get funding from donors. You're more likely to get backing from people like Jake Tapper or media people who want to give the illusion of bipartisanship. So if you're looking at it like that, I don't really understand why people are acting like on the Democrat side, well, you can't possibly support or help a Republican. When the mayor of D.C. made the statement that it was good what was happening in D.C. with the crime cleanup, she gained a lot of favor. That's the kind of thing Democrats need to do to be successful.
Let me switch gears here for just a second. There's a story that is being pimped now by Fox News. Again, the propaganda arm, the neocons and people that are not on your side. And the story is this: more than 1,000 current and former Department of Health and Human Services employees are calling for Secretary Kennedy to resign after the termination of the beloved CDC Director Susan Moneritz. Bull. You know what this is? This is bought and paid for, because in between the tunnels to towers and the Wounded War Hero ads on Fox News, if you don't get the old ladies riding the staircase or old people riding the staircase up to the top of the steps, what do you get ads for? Sky Ritzy, psoriasis drugs, every manner of pharmaceutical, Ozempic, Wegovy. The broadcast commercial schedule is either people that were wounded in America's wars or pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical industry owns all of the cable news networks. And this is Fox News just promoting a story that is absolute bunk. And of course there were thousands of people that want RFK Jr. gone. You know why? Because he's going to be successful at getting rid of people that are making people sick and not very healthy. That's why. They have made entire careers and entire fortunes out of profiting from the suffering and from the melees and lack of health of the American people here. This is another instance, though, here. This is a non-story. Before RFK Jr. got to CDC or HHS, when he was a candidate, they hated him, Magdalene. When he was running the Children's Defense Network, they hated him and wanted him gone. So this is a not news story. There's nothing new here. All this is Fox News trying to get conservatives, people that think that they're conservative and lean a little older, to turn on RFK Jr. and to start rattling the MAGA base that we don't want this kind of health. He's got to go.
Well, that is all that they're trying to do. And I think that part of the problem is that the MAGA base, it's a little bit unfocused right now, so Democrats think that they can take advantage, but that's not true. And for the longest time, Democrats sort of believed that when Trump was going to leave office, it would be the end of Republicanism and Trumpism and all of that. And then Trump picked Vance. And, I'm not like a super Vance fan, but I recognize that he will keep this way of governing going as best as he can. So I think Democrats are waking up to the fact that this nightmare for them doesn't end when Trump's term ends. This may be the new future of the Republican Party.
Well, let's see, what else? I think we covered that. Maggie, why'd you put this Thune clip on the sheet?
He's just talking about how we need to push these. No.
Senate has taken so far 499 votes this year, more than any Congress in the last 35 years. So I guess he's defending his record, saying we didn't shut the Senate down for whatever causes. We've taken more in 8 months than the Senate has taken most of the past 32 years. We'll get more done. We went into August with 135 civilian nominees. So I guess John Thune is thinking that he's on Trump's watch list, or he's on his wanted list, because he wouldn't get out of the way of the recess appointments?
I assume so.
And then, we're waiting for the Massey hearing to begin. This is another firming up the base that happened yesterday, and just doing it with a common sense, in a common sense way that just makes sense, and that is moving the Space Force from Colorado to Alabama. This is just a retribution against. Maybe it is. So what? Your attorney general did try and sue him so that he could never run for the presidency again, right? That wretched witch in Colorado, had she won that suit, he would have been prevented from even being on the ballot in any of the other 49 states. Remember that? Jocelyn, what was that witch's name? The attorney general and she lost in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court went, 7-2 on that one. So is this Trump just going like, you know what, you want to fight me in everywhere? You want to do all this? I got a great thing called Space Force. Perhaps you've heard of it. We're just going to move it out of Colorado. It's just sitting in Colorado. We're going to move it to what we're going to call Rocket City, Alabama. Alabama is a great place, Alabama. This is, I think, another. This is firming the base up, don't you think?
You cut out for a second there. I didn't hear the end of it.
I said this is firming the base up, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think that the base in general is like we're a little bit scatterbrained now. I've seen reporting from Scott Pressler where he said that within Pennsylvania specifically, there's a fractioning of the Republican base because there are candidates coming out that are more moderate than we would like, and we're seeing that pattern across the country. But when it comes down to it, those people are going to coalesce behind Republicans. And I think for Democrats at this point, they're not in the same boat. They're not coalescing on the same level. And a lot of this is Hakeem Jeffries' fault because as Nancy Pelosi was leader, she kept people in check. She kept them from messing up, from leaving. Hakeem Jeffries is a terrible Democrat leader, and I think one of the weakest points of the DNC.
Thank you very much, Magdalene. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm interested to see who shows up at this Thomas Massey press conference with the Epstein survivors. Maggie, before we get out of here, just play, because it's on the sheet, could you just play Mike Rowe? I want people to hear it. By the way, 1/4 of the way to our weekly fundraising goal. Thanks to all of you that donated today. $325 out of $1,200. That's one heck of a thank you. You can see the progress in the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. Reminding you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to stop talking.
Today on Nice Things People Send Me in the Mail, I want to show you a pocket knife I just received in time for Labor Day from a guy named Don Heathcote. I'm going to look at it as a MicroWorks birthday present. We turned 17 on Labor Day, and this is just one of the prettiest pocket knives you're ever going to see. I want to show it to you. That's meteorite that Don forged into the blade. It's really something special. So is the note he wrote me, which I want to read for you right now. It says, hello, Mike. I sure hope everything health-wise is going good with you. Anyway, I like your work ethic and what you're doing to teach these young people about work and what you can get out of it. From the time I was young, I always had something to do. I got out of high school the year you were born. When I got older, I started work on the railroad and then a stint in Vietnam. And that's when I started making knives, late in the 60s. I really never stopped. The knife I made for you was made all the way by me. I forged a piece of meteorite into the blade. That's the silver streak you can see that runs the length of the blade. The wood is stabilized maple, and the thumb bob is an opal. Isn't that great? I hope you like it, Mike. I hope you use it. It would be nice to get a picture of you with it, but I hope at least you'll let me know that you got it. In case you don't like knives, please give it to somebody who will use it. Thanks again. Keep up the good work. Yeah, Don, I got it. Mishap with the glasses. That's a story for another time. I did call my office and ask them to sniff around, and I do believe we found you. That's you in the middle there with the ball cap on. Probably forging a knife. It looks like you're gathered around to forge. That would have been, I guess, what, late 60s, early 70s? I think it's pretty awesome, man. You know, we've raised for MicroWorks over $1 million auctioning off nice things that people send me in the mail, and I can't imagine what I could get for this, but for the record, I think I'm going to hold on to it, if that's all right with you. Maybe forever. I appreciate a good knife. And I appreciate a letter like that, especially on Labor Day, from a man who knows a thing or two about work.
A knife, the blade, is made out of meteorite. Meteorite.
I think that's cool.
The first thing I thought when I heard meteorite was the first Creepshow movie. The character that Stephen King actually played, the character, whatever his name was in the movie. The meteor lands at his place and he goes outside and he goes, "Holy blank! And then he sticks his hand and he's trying to move the meteorite around, and he gets some of the green goo from the meteor on his hand, and he goes, "Oh man, look, meteor!" That's the first thing that I thought of. All right, when news breaks out, we break in. If any news breaks out today, we will break in. Hey, remember, for all of you that are enjoying the new Crusade Channel 2.0 app, it really is a major light years improvement. Click that podcast tab or menu. I don't know, you can either click it at the bottom of the screen or in the left-hand menu or even in the scroll-out menu. Click the podcast category to scroll through the latest podcast. You'll see 5 episodes of Moms, Murders, and Mysteries. Episode number 5, the final episode, which was the dandy, an hour and 32 minutes long in the Karen Reed trial. So a great job by the Moms, Murders, and Mysteries team, which includes Maggie O'Connell, Justin Durand, and Maggie's mama High Hurdle, as we call it. And of course, Jim Mosier doing a phenomenal job on the production, and yours truly trying to keep up with everyone being the host. Episodes 1 through 5 now available. You can binge listen to the entire podcast series. Also, don't forget the Saint of the Day from the sisters, the slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That's our brothers and sisters at the St. Benedict Center with Brother Andre Marie are now doing the Saint of the Day. And Sister is doing them from what's written on the site. And she's even now saying, "Hello, Crusaders," greeting you with a smile every morning. Those are edited down for airplay. So if she sends a very long one, well, then I just edit the airplay version down so we can play inside a commercial break. And then I upload her complete version. I don't cut anything out of the complete version. And you can get all of them as podcasts now at crusadechannel.com under the podcast tab, or they do have their own menu tab on the website if you're on a desktop or on a mobile. And yeah, you can get it from the podcast tab in the app as well. So there are the apps or the daily podcast now for members only of the Mike Church Show. There's previews. Man, there's all sorts of stuff. We got 3 series now: Moms, Murders, and Mysteries, Thursday Night Throwdown, an album, Autopsy. All there for you. Always something new and great to listen to. Thank you for your contributions. We're at $325 today to our Friday evening goal of $1,200. Thanks for your contributions. When news breaks out, we will break in here on the Crusade Channel. Live talk and podcast radio the way it should be. St. Pius X is your saint of the day today. And Mary the Good Shepherdess as well. It's her feast day as well. So St. Pius X, pray for us. Our Lady, the Good Shepherdess, of course, pray for us. And God bless you and Mary keep you.
It won't be long. I'm going away and it won't be long.